Welcome to the Lounge Lizards podcast, presented by Fabrica 5. It's so good to have you here. It's a leisure and lifestyle podcast founded on our love of premium cigars, as well as whiskey, travel, food, work, and whatever else we feel like getting into. My name is Gizmo. Tonight I'm joined by Rooster, Pooba, Senator, Pagoda, Chef Ricky, and Bam Bam, a full house of lizards. And our plan is to smoke a cigar, drink some bourbon, talk about life, and of course, have some laughs. So take this as your 158th official invitation to join us and become a card-carrying lounge lizard. Plan to meet us here once a week. We're going to smoke a New World cigar tonight, share our thoughts on it, and give you a formal lizard rating. I recap my recent trip to the Dominican Republic with La Aurora. We smoke our first 60 ring gauge cigar, and we discuss our favorite music for cigar smoking, all among a variety of other things for the next 2 hours. So sit back, get your favorite drink, light up a cigar, and enjoy as we pair Woodford Reserve Double Oaked with the Rocky Patel 6060. A Gordo tonight on the pod from Nicaragua. It's the Rocky Patel 60, and it's a 60 ring gauge cigar, boys, by 6 inches long. And let's start with thoughts and prayers for Rooster, who is here very much against his will tonight.
I can't even say Rocky Patel. I just keep calling it RP.
This thing, boys, in our hand is large and in charge, and I'm a little terrified.
Yeah, and very ornate, to say the least.
I agree.
You know what this reminds me of? Back in the day, you get those bazooka gums, and there was always a comic strip on there. I feel like underneath this wrapper, there's going to be a comic strip or something.
The
for us
cigar is about 5.5 inches long. The wrapper is 5. The band is 5 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's all band.
you can see about half an inch of the cigar.
It has a large band that covers the bottom half of the cigar, which says the word 60 on it, and then the number 60 at the bottom and a picture of some tobacco leaves, and then a very ornate Rocky Patel band at the top. So I guess before we cut this, let's take that bottom band off, and then...
Listen,
Yeah, there's 3 bands on this thing.
Oh, there's 3. I thought it was 2. Wow.
I think we all set for a pleasant surprise.
I mean, I got to say, as I'm taking some of the...
It broke.
Yeah, took some of my wrapper out as well.
It took some of the
Microphone.
wrapper right out. Okay, I just pulled it off, and it pulled a big hole right there.
Oh, I got a chunk out of mine, too.
Same here.
Look
Same
at
here.
that.
The corner.
Look at that.
Not great.
Not a good...
oh, yeah. Same actually on mine.
Yeah.
You
The
do-
glue, too much glue.
No bueno.
You do all of that to protect the cigar to then destroy it as you remove it.
Ridiculous.
This is lunacy.
It's a shame that this is happening because when you take the giant band off, the foot band, it's actually a really nice looking wrapper. Mine has got perfectly invisible seams, no veins.
Oh, well, yeah. The quality of the wrapper is beautiful.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I wish that there wasn't this giant band on it in the first place. One, we wouldn't have tears in our wrappers. And
Correct.
2, it's actually a nice looking wrapper that's on this cigar.
Why must they hide it?
I think if it was just the main RP band on this big cigar, that would have been more than necessary. I think this would have been perfect.
I agree.
Just this single band.
Are your wrappers like mine? I mean, this is
Yeah,
pristine.
it looks great.
It almost looks like a Padron cigar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost.
It looks really nice.
Mine looks great, except for the 1/4 inch tear that happened when I took the. Look at that.
Fuba's is pretty bad.
Yeah. No, spit will not save that.
All right, boys, let's cut this thing. We'll see what we're getting on the cold draw on the wrapper. This is the biggest cigar we've done on the podcast tonight, 60 ring gauge.
Did we talk about how much these are?
These cigars we got for a little under $16,
Okay.
which I was happy about.
I sense value.
The cold draw is
Really nice.
Very fruity.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm surprised. It has a lot more character on the cold draw than I expected.
Dare I say it's wet fruit.
Tasty wet fruit.
It almost has like a banana mango thing.
Yeah.
I'm getting
You're getting that?
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of mango.
Wow.
little blue-
Spot on.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's wide open. It's a nice row.
The draw's really nice.
Oh, it's wide open.
All right, boys.
Oh, boy.
Let's light this thing. Let's see how it does tonight. The Rocky Patel 60.
So I brought in the commercial blower for this one.
Your creme brulee torch.
Yeah.
60
Literally.
ring gauge by
I mean,
6 inches long. It's a
good luck,
Gordo.
boys. Good luck with your dainty Cuban cigar lighters there.
This has a very heavy rectangular box press as
It
well.
does.
Yeah.
Which makes the 60 ring gauge feel a little smaller in the hand.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank God this is
Yeah.
box press. If this were not, this would be ridiculous to smoke.
Since I used the steel welder over there, I'm beating you guys to the first puff. It's not bad.
You're off and running.
Really not that bad. Right?
That's how these things go, Bam. We'll see.
I gotta say, the first
Very
puff
pleasant.
is very nice.
Very
Tasty.
pleasant.
Yeah.
You know what it is, though? The draw is so wide open.
Do you think it's too wide open?
It is.
I'm feeling that
For me,
with how wide open this is,
It's
it's gonna heat up quick.
it'll heat up quick. You're going to get some ammonia going there. I hope not.
I don't know. I'll just say I'm actually glad the draw is wide open because at this ring gauge, I do not want to be fighting the
Yeah.
cigar at all. It like
You
has
mean
to
I
you don't want to
agree.
smoke it for 2.5 hours?
no.
Let it burn.
Oh, the smoke outburst. Look at this.
This room is going to be full of smoke.
Yeah, I
Well,
know.
I called Giz before we came over. I said, "Are we really doing a Rocky Patel tonight?" He said, "He said, no, yeah." I go, "I thought we were joking," and I said, "What is it, like a Robusto?" And he goes, "No." I go, "What is it, a Robusto extra?" He goes, "No." I go, "Is it a Gorda?" He goes, "Yes."
So we're going to do one. Might as well go for the large one, right? Yeah.
And this cigar specifically, this Vitola of this line, and I'll go through the others in a minute. This one won it was number 2 cigar of the year in Cigar Aficionado in 2022.
Oh, really?
This was the year, if you remember, that the H. Upman number 2 from Cuba won.
Yeah,
it was
right.
the
Right,
latest
right.
Cuban cigar that
Okay,
won
great.
Cigar of
If
the
they're
year.
in the same
And this
company,
is number 2.
Well, if they're in the same company, it better do pretty well.
He's deadly serious about that statement.
I'll just say it's not bad on the light.
This is the whole conversation revisited. Let's see what happens halfway through.
Retro Hell's very nice.
I mean, I expected this cigar to be very heavy.
It's not
And
at
it's
all.
not.
No, it's medium.
It's,
It's
it's
medium.
mostly, I'm just getting like a fruit note so far.
Yeah.
Chef, what are you getting on the retro? You
I'm
tried it
getting
yet?
some fruit and nut. I'm getting
Yeah.
some little toasted nuts there.
Me
It's
too.
really nice.
Mhm.
It's actually, I do
Honestly-
wish the head was a little tapered because I feel like it helps concentrate the cigars its flavor a little bit.
It's too wide open. For
Yeah,
me.
when the draw's this wide open, it kind of everything comes and goes really fast.
This is one of those cigars I wonder, based on the ring gauge, if it would have made sense, obviously hindsight's 2020, to do a punch or some sort of,
Mhm.
cut
Yeah.
on the cigar
I like
that
that.
didn't put a 60 ring gauge slice across the,
Yeah,
the top of the cigar.
great
That-
point. Great
true.
point.
So that's something to think about as we get into the last third of the cigar. If it's heating up,
That's a very good point. I never ever
Yeah.
do a punch, and it probably would make sense for a larger ring gauge cigar just to try it.
especially one that is going to be this wide open.
Now
like
that
this
we
is
know.
like I'd argue this is like a wind
Yeah,
tunnel.
or
right
like a V.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or a V.
Yeah, a V
Yeah,
cut. Yeah,
a V too.
now.
true.
V would work too.
I think Rooster loves this Marcus so much. We should have him light a second one with a punch.
I have one right here if you want to.
I think Pooba needs another one.
And I think he can
Yeah.
smoke them both
Yeah,
simultaneously.
give me 48 hours.
This is off to a nice start, guys.
It is.
We'll see how it goes here. So this cigar, like I said, comes from Nicaragua. The wrapper is San Andres from Mexico. The binder and the filler are both Nicaraguan. The tobacco in the cigar is aged 6 to 7 years. And then after the cigars were rolled, it was rested another 2 years.
Or just like the ALR. The ALR was rested 2 years after it was rolled.
I don't know if the tobacco was that aged in it, 6
So
to
is
7.
this
but
also age limited and rare?
Rare.
I doubt it.
I just think, sorry, I mean, hearing you say that, it's really stupid that on the band, all they highlight is
the 2 years?
it just says aged for 2 years.
I know.
So you would think that the tobacco was only aged for 2 years. Why they wouldn't lead with the 6 years plus, I mean,
Mhm.
makes no sense
This
to me.
is crazy. As I was researching for this episode tonight, I found a video of Rocky Patel actually talking about the construction and blend and everything about this cigar. And that's where I learned that the tobacco was aged 6 to 7 years prior to rolling, then rested for 2 after rolling. But
Otherwise, you would not have known.
they didn't market that at all. To Senator's point, like, why not say this is 8 years aged
Well,
tobacco or 9 years aged?
Are they
you know?
are they saying that were they implying that they were aging it in Polonais?
Yeah, I would think it was aged. The leaves were aged in bales for 6 to 7 years. Then they bought or procured that tobacco. Obviously, I think they procured that Mexican San Andres from someone else. They had their own Nicaraguan tobacco for the binder and the filler. So I'm guessing maybe it's just not rock solid that it's 6 to 7 years on everything. So the only thing that they could concretely say was that they were rested for 2 years after rolling. So that's my
I
assumption.
gotta tell you, I'm surprised how smooth the retrohale is.
Yeah.
There's no bite at all. It is leaving a little bit of a dry finish for me. Not a bad thing, but
It's
there.
almost absent of spice. It's odd.
It really is.
I mean, I'm not complaining about that.
No, I'm just saying through the retro. Normally on a
Gotcha.
Nicaraguan cigar in the retro, you're
it's
gonna
surprising.
get spicy.
Yeah.
That's one thing, though. I mean, my experience with Rockies has been very limited. I've probably smoked maybe at most 5 ever in my life. What I do recall, though, even ones with like really dark wrappers, and I don't remember. I feel like it was a maroon band.
Yeah, I've had that one. It's a little guy, right?
No, it was like a Robusto,
Okay.
like a regular size.
Yeah.
I was at is that the Phoenician in Scottsdale? They've got a big golf course.
Puma
The
would know.
hotel, Arizona, Phoenician. All right, it's very famous. I'm pretty sure it's got to be that. But their like golf clubs sold cigars, and I was out of cigars on this trip, and it was like very limited the selection. So I ended up trying this Rocky dark wrapper just like this, and I just distinctly remember how insanely smooth the cigar was, and I feel like that's what they're known for. Like, even if it's Nicaraguan, more aggressive tobacco, like their style is just like a really smooth delivery.
You know, look, if a market can pull off a consistent smoothness in their cigars, that's not a bad thing. That's a pretty good merit.
Well, it creates. Rocky Patel's a really good marketer,
Sure.
and he's really good at commercializing his brand, and that makes the cigar approachable.
And yeah,
To,
and it
to, to,
being
you know,
easy to smoke.
to a mass market.
Sure.
So,
But he's also been very successful at it, right? Because
oh yeah,
you know, I offer so many cigars to people. If they don't like it, they know it immediately. You know, if somebody is still pursuing them, there's something he's doing right.
oh, he's doing a lot of things right.
Mhm.
I from a business perspective, he crushes it.
Absolutely.
I mean, he sells a lot of cigars.
Oh,
He
yeah.
makes cigars for the masses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I have a lot of respect for that. A lot of respect for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just the way he started out his whole journey. He's a lawyer apparently, right? Well, that's how it started out, and then he kind of gave that up, and he went. I mean, he bought Indian Tobacco, that was
Yeah.
the company, and then he called it Rocky Patel later, and he literally went like door to door selling his brand. And
I mean, you cannot deny his entrepreneurial grind. You can't deny
his success.
his success. And hey, look, if I could duplicate that myself from a business perspective, I would do it all day long.
Yeah, he put in a lot of hard work.
A lot of hard work. So, you know, he's selling a lot of cigars, and you know, there's a market for this kind of stuff.
It's just that none of Rocky Patel cigars that I've ever smoked have really blown me away. You know, it's never been like, oh, I got to go get like a box of this, or I got to get
Mm-hmm.
a $5 off this cigar. I mean, not that I've had every single cigar that he's ever put out, but some of his better stuff, I don't know, it just doesn't make me go after this mark.
It's not a
Right, the
memorable.
brand.
When he,
Yeah.
I
Not
agree.
memorable.
But because when they're doing these blends, you're not the segment they're targeting.
Yeah, I guess.
You're not the segment that
But
they're
I
targeting.
I like a Nicaraguan cigar. I mean, I like a fuller cigar, but this cigar right now, it doesn't make me feel like it's a Nicaraguan tobacco is what I'm smoking. It's kind of more like a blend of a Honduran and Nicaraguan, not like a full-on
Agreed.
Nicaraguan cigar, which is not, it's not giving me that spice. It's not giving me that, that fullness that you get out of Nicaraguan tobacco. It's so far, it's like a lot of fruit is what I'm getting. I'm sure maybe it's going to change a little bit.
Mm.
But
I got to say, for all those reasons, I'm actually really enjoying this cigar.
Yeah, I agree.
it's very
I-
pleasant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very pleasant.
I also want to be clear.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's fair in any way for us to suggest that like there's one way to produce a Nicaraguan cigar. I mean, we've smoked countless Nicaraguan cigars on this podcast where we're like, I would never guess this is Nicaraguan tobacco.
Mhm.
That's right.
And I think that's a huge merit
Yeah.
because to tame the beast that is Nicaraguan tobacco and make it deliver an experience that's not the obvious, like punch you in your face,
Mhm.
tons of flavor, tons of cocoa, like all that. and do something different is hard. And I tend to really give credit to brands that are able to do it. And to Gizmo's point, I mean, yes, I agree with Rooster. This is not like the traditional Nicaraguan, but I really like the flavors that I'm getting out of this cigar.
And the
I
blend,
like
the
it.
blend's
100%
working.
because the binder's not Nicaraguan. is it?
Correct.
It is.
Oh, it is.
Yes,
Ah.
only
But the
the wrapper
wrapper
is
is
San Andres
Ah, okay.
Mexican wrapper.
I mean,
Got
that
it,
does
got
give
it.
it the little sweetness. It kind of rounds the flavors out. But I think if the tobacco is 6 to 7 years aged, that should be marketed. I mean, that should be talked about. And if that is true, and the fact that it's aged like another 2 years after it's rolled, that's a huge merit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a little
agreed.
odd that Rocky Patel of all people isn't marketing that on this stick.
We may not be able to totally make the claim.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Which I respect him not marketing it if that's the case.
Sorry,
Yeah.
can we all witness Bam is making dessert right now? The creme brulee is coming along really nicely.
Can't wait to serve it.
So there are 4 total sizes in the line, the 60 line from Rocky Patel. There's a Robusto, which is 50 by 5.5, a Toro 52 by 6.5, the 60 we have in our hands, which is 60 by 6, as we know, and a Bala, which is an interesting Vitola, which is 58 ring gauge at the foot, 50 ring gauge at the head by 5 3/4 inches long. Very odd size. The first 3 on the line were launched in 2021, and the Bala, the one I just talked about, was launched in 2023. So this cigar, which I'm assuming has been made clear throughout the years since this came out, Cigar Aficionado celebrating it as number 2 in 2022. This cigar was launched to celebrate Rocky Patel's 60th birthday. So in 2021, these cigars came out in that honor. And boys, we have a birthday in the room tonight. Did you know that?
No.
Really?
It is the podcast's 3rd birthday this week.
Wow.
Look at that.
How about it?
Time has flown
So
by.
the listeners will remember on episode 150, we did a whole hullabaloo. We didn't want to do it again 9 episodes later, 8 episodes later, but congratulations to us, boys.
Congratulations to us.
What,
3
no
years.
champagne?
Where's the saber? I don't see the
Yeah,
saber.
what the fuck is? You could have given me a heads up on this.
There's no sheet cake, nothing.
Nothing.
No.
All you
no.
brought us is a Rocky Patel?
I brought us a Rocky Patel.
No sheet cakes.
No sheet cake. So that's pretty cool. We are now entering into our 4th year
Incredible.
of podcast production here with the Lounge Lizards. So
That's
shout out
amazing.
to all the listeners out there. It's very cool that we've now hit 3 years officially this week.
That's awesome.
So boys, this cigar is pretty damn good.
It's good.
I
can't
gotta,
complain.
I gotta give it credit.
And the construction's great. I mean, even burn.
Except
Nice
for where
white
the wrapper
Except
was
for
torn.
The wrapper was ripped off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a burn issue, but hopefully it's corrected itself.
I'm getting a bit of saltiness right now in the front of my tongue, which
Mhm.
is very pleasant.
Hold on. I got to hear from Pagoda. What do you think of this cigar? God damn it.
It's actually, you know what, I'm pleasantly surprised.
I
is-
mean, you are
there's
the
been more-
Patel man in the room. Let's go.
well, my last name is Patel. No, I'm
Pagoda
just kidding.
Patel.
No, it's not. No, really enjoying it. Meaning this, as soon as I picked up the cigar, I thought, oh, this is going to be one of the stronger ones, but it's more like between mild and medium. I
It's
would
very
say.
deceiving.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
very deceiving. I love the construction, the smoke output. It was a rather sharp burn, but yeah, no, it's been good. I'm also getting a little bit of saltiness and a little bit now. I don't know. Maybe I just get it sometimes when I smoke certain cigars. A little bit of the dark chocolate bitterness,
Mhm.
which has moved away from a little bit of the fruity,
So
walnutty
I
taste.
get that
yeah.
dark chocolate
yeah.
on a finish for me.
Yeah.
No marmalade?
No marmalade yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been fantastic so far. No
Yeah.
complaints.
I also have to say the box press on this, it does not feel like a 60 ring gauge cigar,
Exactly.
No.
which is very helpful.
Yes.
If this was a normal Parejo cigar, round,
Right.
this would be too much. In the,
Yeah.
as far as your
Mouthfeel.
mouthfeel, it would
Yeah.
be way too much, I think.
It's also very loosely packed.
it
Yeah.
feels
That's why-
light.
it
But
is.
That's why the
that's
draw is.
To me, that's a merit because you're like, it's going to smoke faster. It's a long investment, and you don't want a tight draw on a cigar that's this
No,
big.
I mean, I'm just
Agreed.
saying if you hold it, like it feels light.
Correct.
Correct.
And honestly, the color of the ash, it's kind of not bright white, but it's almost there. It looks like a very high quality, well-made cigar. That's a merit.
I mean, it's his 60th birthday cigar. He had to have put some thought into it.
Absolutely.
The guy is not a moron.
That's true,
okay.
Of course.
I would argue he's the opposite of that.
He's the opposite of that. He's a brilliant guy.
Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
He's a brilliant guy. Like I said before, a great entrepreneur. And I just don't think he's going to, it would shock me if for his birthday cigar, he put out something that isn't great.
So easy to smoke.
Yeah.
It is an easy smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost too easy. Yeah.
But nice though. In a very nice, enjoyable way.
Is this one of his like the higher priced cigars?
$16.
Yeah, I think so. This is one of his more recent high-end lines.
Is that right?
It is in regular production though. I mean, he does have higher end cigars that are in the 40s and 50s, I think, but
he does.
Yeah. But I think those are limited.
I think that ALR is more expensive than this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but has anyone in this room had an ALR
that
wasn't completely and totally offensive?
Well, let's ask
I
Pagoda.
loved it.
I mean,
I used to
every
love it.
LAR I've ever had was
Hard to smoke.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I smoke it, and you all know it.
To Puba's point here on Rocky Patel, his business, and the ALR that we just talked about, this is the second Rocky Patel we've done on the pod. On episode 104, we did the ALR second edition Robusto. We'll talk about the rating later, but we also talked quite extensively about Rocky's history, his business acumen, how he got to where he is, and also something I want to highlight again that we highlighted in that episode 55 episodes ago is what an advocate he is for the industry and what a leader he is with the industry associations who are, putting up the fight against government regulation and these crazy things that are happening in municipalities, states, and federally in the United States. And he is like the top guy. When we were at PCA, we mentioned this on the PCA episode.
Mm-hmm.
He was at every single meeting on the floor. He was one of the leaders in those meetings.
Sure.
So he's definitely really, really important to the cigar industry. It's something I like to highlight again,
Well, yeah, because they have broad distribution. He has it's a kind of a mass appeal line. Like his catalog is for the masses. And this isn't a knock, but if Rocky Patel is the Coca-Cola of cigars, and maybe, I don't know, Davidoff is Dr. Brown's or something. Of soda. Do you know what I'm saying? Where it's way better. Like there's nothing better than like a Dr. Brown's black cherry soda.
It's as good as it gets.
It's as good as it gets.
Every listener right now is Googling Dr. Brown's because I have no idea what it is.
I have no idea what it is.
Oh, you know what it is? It's what they
I've had
serve
them
in
before,
kosher delis with the. It's the best black cherry soda you'll ever have.
It's right up there with Stewart's and some
Stewart's,
of those more.
root beer.
Yeah.
Oh, like Boylan's. Boylan's is another.
Boylan's is there too. Yeah.
So he's got such broad distribution and such a big audience, and it's got mass appeal. So he's got to get out there.
My perception is that he's kind of like the guy running the charge. Like every time there's a judgment or some sort of FDA thing, the PCA always includes a quote from Rocky Patel, almost more than anyone else.
It's not the perception, it's the reality. I mean, he's on the Hill all the time, meeting with members of Congress about tobacco-related legislation. I think his background as a lawyer, for whatever reason, like
I didn't think of that.
It
Probably helps a lot.
Of course.
just lended itself to him being like a really effective voice on behalf of the industry. So like PCA for years, I mean, I always see, Josh Zabriskie, whenever he's on the Hill, the CEO at PCA, and he was their head federal lobbyist for a very long time. I mean, he's always, him and Rocky lighting up on the balcony of the speaker's office at the Capitol. And like, he's just a fixture there. Like I'd be shocked if by just the number of members of Congress that probably know Rocky on a first name basis, just how often that he's there talking about industry issues and trying to push back against some of the bullshit regulation that comes up.
Yeah. So cheers to Rocky,
sure.
for that because it's awesome.
Oh yeah.
So I want to shout out Rob Isla because we've had a conversation a few times in the last 6 months or so about how many cigars manufacturers around the world are making, and he recently put up a thread where he kind of threw it out to the members on FOH to guess the order of manufacturers by volume.
Mm.
And I was very surprised by the results. And I think talking about Rocky Patel, and I think some of the assumptions we have about the size of his business, and we've talked about it in the past, I'm curious if any of us are in the ballpark. So for the top 8 worldwide manufacturers of cigars, where do you think Rocky Patel lands in top 8?
Top
6.
8?
6, okay.
No, I would say 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say top 4.
4. Anybody else?
Yeah, top 4.
Top 5.
Okay. Rooster.
Yeah, I would say top 5.
All right, so I'm going to count backwards 8 to number 1. Again, shout out to Rob for throwing this up because this is great information. Number 8 on the list is Padron, who puts out about between 3.5 and 5 million cigars a year. Rocky Patel is number 7 at 20 million cigars a year.
Wow.
Arturo Fuente, number 6, 30 million. Plasencia, number 5, 35 million.
That's surprising.
Oliva, number 4, 40 million. Davidoff, between 40 and 50 million cigars a year. Habanos SA, 45 to 55 million cigars a year currently.
Well,
that's
is that
down.
accurate? Do we know if that's
down,
accurate?
Well, yeah, I think that's an accurate number, down quite a bit
Okay.
from about 5-6 years ago. Does anybody have an idea who the number 1 cigar manufacturer in the world by volume on this list?
True
Monte
Estates?
Cristo?
Who?
True Estates.
Drew Estate,
Estates.
70 plus million
Holy
cigars a year.
Yeah,
Cow.
they have
Over a million
ton of
cigars a
brands,
week.
and they have a lot of machine made.
Unbelievable.
Hang on. So they're 1. Who was 2?
2 was Habanos.
Got it.
Now,
Drew Estate,
Davidoff,
Habanos, and Davidoff are the top 3.
at Davidoff prices to be ranked that high.
Keep in mind,
volume?
that's going to obviously include Camacho and Avo.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
So now,
yeah. That makes
yeah.
that's
you know,
right.
let's
some
not
of the
forget
conglomerates, some of the conglomerates
That's
were
right.
not in this list. So you're not talking Swisher,
Mhm.
you're not talking STG. Some of the like really, really big ones that are kind of holding companies for massive companies. General Cigar's not in here.
Right.
So there are some folks that are not on this list that are probably eclipsing these numbers.
Right.
But
Like I
for
would
the
think
8
Monte
that-
Cristo would be
Huge. But I think the reason why I like this list is this is a list of 8 that is kind of in our wheelhouse here on the podcast.
And we said Rocky's at 20 million?
Yeah, Rocky's around 20 million a year.
Yeah. Not bad for a guy that started door to door.
Pretty amazing.
Listen to that.
it's a great success story.
Yeah.
I gotta say, the smoke in this room is insane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's intense. So, boys, let's talk about our pairing.
Yeah.
We have the Woodford Double Oaked Bourbon tonight on the podcast. This
Salud.
is the second Woodford we've done. And we are all, I believe, drinking it neat to start. Is that correct?
Correct.
Cheers, boys.
To
Cheers.
3 years.
To 3 years.
3
We are
years.
now in our
You're
4th
correct.
year officially. Cheers, boys. Isn't that wild?
Cheers.
Pooba, cheers,
Cheers.
gentlemen.
Cheers.
Cheers, folks.
Oh, that's really nice.
Very nice.
That is a real surprise.
Mm-hmm.
How
I'm
robust
not,
it is.
I'm not surprised.
I'm surprised by this flavor profile. It's interesting. There's like a cherry in it.
Cherry, yeah.
A little almond type thing for me.
yeah.
Orange.
Yeah, a touch of orange rind maybe.
Orange, and there's this note. You get this on Macallan 12 Sherry. Faint,
Cocoa.
like dark chocolate on the finish.
I get faint
Oh,
cocoa.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. That is there.
Yep.
That's unusual.
That's a really nice bourbon.
This is a great bourbon.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hit one of those Girardelli squares with this.
It's great. It brings all of those
Or Bouchard.
sweet sounding notes to the table without being overly sweet.
Agreed. Very well balanced.
Yeah, very well
Yeah,
done.
it's sweet in the front of the palate and then dry in the back.
How are you feeling about the pairing with this particular cigar?
Doesn't
I like
overpower it.
Yeah, I
It's
think
good.
it's,
I like it a
I
lot.
think it's very appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The reason I like it is I think, there's some sweet notes you get in the cigar, but then the finish is a little dry. And I like that. I think the bourbon, it's sweeter than the cigar, but not overly sweet.
Mhm.
And I think it's helping kind of balance out some of the dryness in the cigar. So I really like the
Okay.
pairing.
And I like that we're not tasting a lot of wood
No,
in
we're
the
not.
bourbon. And I think that when I'm sipping the bourbon and having the cigar with it, it's making those fruit notes pronounced, the salt notes pronounced, and everything's kind of working really well together.
Do we know if this is finished in sherry casks?
No, I would doubt
No,
that.
yeah.
It
Bourbon.
was double oak, right?
Yeah.
Double oak. Okay.
See, I kind of disagree. I feel like the reason it dries out, despite starting sweet with the cherry and whatnot, I think the chocolate that comes around, that's a result of the oak.
Mm.
So
you think it's
that's-
because of the oak?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it kind of, I feel like you're leaning this way, Ben, but I think it kind of overpowers the cigar a little bit. It doesn't really complement it. Just a touch.
For me, it does just a touch overpower.
And I
a
think
touch.
if we did a punch cut versus
Maybe.
a straight cut,
Maybe.
it would probably hold up a little bit better to the spirit. but-
It's pleasant. I'm not going to reject the pairing, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but what's happening exactly? But if this was this bourbon paired with the Exclusivo,
home run.
Mhm.
Padron.
Home run.
more of
very
a
good
more
point.
more of,
Absolute
more
home
of a
run.
balanced pairing.
Yeah, agreed.
Because what's happening here, I'm about halfway through.
The cigar?
Not halfway, but
Yeah,
His
Yeah.
thoughts.
I kind of feel like I'm almost
I'm
there.
getting there. I
I'm
mean, I'm
smoking
getting
it a little
there.
bit fast.
It's not changing much for me. It's basically the same way it started, which
Waiting for it to pick up in strength a little bit.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm waiting for some pepper, or I'm waiting for some more body,
Yeah.
or waiting for some more strength. And for a Nicaraguan blend, I'm not getting that, which is fine, but it would hold up better with this.
I agree. I think you guys are viewing it from a strength perspective of like the strength of the cigar and the strength of the bourbon, and I don't disagree there. The bourbon's got a bit more strength than the cigar. I think my initial reaction was more of like the flavor profile. I feel like the flavor notes in the cigar and the flavor notes in the bourbon worked well together.
They do work well.
And
I don't disagree with that.
For me, it's less strength. It's more if the cigar had a little bit more body.
This
To
reminds
match up to
yeah. This reminds me, no joke, blind. If this wasn't the shape that it was in, it feels like 1000 series Padron to me.
that's not a bad comparison.
I mean,
I find
it's like
I find that
approachable
those 1000
and
series from
mild.
Padron's a little bit more harsh.
Yeah, there's a little bit
Than
more
this.
oomph behind it.
Not the 2000.
Yeah, but I think where Puba's going is like the flavor is not as heavy or robust as like the 6426 line. It's a milder delivery of that amount of flavor. There's some harshness because it's not aged as long, but the body of the smoke is toned down from the 64 and 26. And I
Sure.
think that it's
Yeah.
more similar to the
Yeah.
body of this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Good call out.
like I kind of wouldn't. If I smoked this blind, okay, it's 16. Okay, let's put it in perspective too. It's $16.50 or whatever it is. It's a $16 cigar,
For a
Yep.
massive cigar.
Yeah.
and it's a big cigar. So it's actually a budget cigar.
I'm assuming, I'm not certain of this. I'm assuming the Robusto's coming in around $11 or $12.
Mhm.
Right. It's actually like with all the pomp and circumstance with the labels and the marketing behind it, it's really just a budget cigar that I don't know, you could sit around your pool with outdoors and kind of just smoke casually. And if you ditched it 2/3 of the way through, who cares? It's $16.
Would you smoke this on a golf course?
I think you would.
Yeah.
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 Call in a couple airstrikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could put it down, jump in the pool, grab another drink or whatever. Who
While
cares?
playing golf.
Maybe while playing golf. But
This is after
This
his
is
8th
not-
airstrike. Let's
Like-
go to the pool.
like I'd be it's pretty good for the price. Like I'd be like agitated if this was $40.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I agree with you
Come
on that.
on.
Yeah,
You're
I agree with you on
absolutely
that.
right.
for sure.
I don't think we would have done it.
I would have threw this at Gizmo if it was $40. Lit.
So it's almost like the presentation of it makes it seem like it's gonna it's going to be this thing that's going to blow your hair back. When really, to me, it's like a glorified 1000 series Padron.
Which is
am I crazy?
Which is $6 on average.
Are they $6
They are
still?
cheaper.
Yeah, they're
They're a
pretty
lot
cheap.
cheaper. Yeah. And they're great. I mean, the Padron 2000s are delicious.
Which that I would
cigar.
define as a budget price cigar. I think
Yeah.
a cigar that's like $12 to $16, it's an accessibly priced cigar,
It's
but I wouldn't
accessible.
call it a budget cigar.
Correct.
Okay.
That's not a daily
fair
driver
enough.
for most folks.
Okay, fair enough. But you know what I'm saying. It's
I think what you're just saying, bang for the buck, cigar size, and smoke experience.
it's a big cigar.
Like,
I mean, it's a big one.
I'll be honest, at this point, and we're coming up, I guess, at the end of the first third, going into the second third. To me, at this price, I do feel that there is, using Pagoda's word, there's value here.
Yeah.
For how much tobacco you're getting, for the price, for how I'm feeling right now, I'm enjoying it.
The smokability of
The
it
smokability.
has a lot of value.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just lacks body, it lacks complexity, but it's not bad.
It's
In any
also-
way, it's not bad.
Is there a risk
Yeah,
of it not
it's-
being memorable because of that?
Possibly. I just
Right.
think
Yeah.
like what everybody's pointing out that I agree with. There are things that it's lacking, but what it does have and what it is delivering is enjoyable.
Yeah.
I agree.
Oh yeah.
And at $16, I'm gonna, my rating is gonna reflect that. I mean, we still have another, 2/3 of this cigar to
Yeah.
go through, but so far, I'm pleased with what it's trying to do.
Sure.
I'm happy with. There are things it could do that I wish it would, but for $16 at this size, I mean, that's not really what
It's
it's
a
meant for.
pleasant.
I'll
smoke.
go out
Yeah.
on a limb and say this would be a cigar that I would give to a newbie.
Yeah.
It's fairly mild. It's easy to smoke. It looks impressive, right? It's fairly intimidating looking. So when someone starts smoking this, they feel like they're having
But
a
do you-
serious experience.
Do you think
Yeah.
you would give this size to a newbie?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the way this is performing, absolutely.
I was
Because it's so smooth.
Well,
right?
and to Gizmo's points earlier about how we're probably, I think it was Gizmo who said we're not the target audience for this cigar.
Mhm.
Yeah, Puba said that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Puba. I think if you're a newbie, right, and you're out there, your local brick and mortar, and you're, chances are you're looking at like the cigar that's the most nicely packaged, right, and you see 3 bands and all this pomp and circumstance, as Puba said. You think it's a super serious cigar, dark band. You feel
Exactly.
really important
You
smoking.
feel like
this.
you're partaking in
Yeah.
something that's elevated.
By the
and,
way,
and then it
it's-
doesn't put you on your ass, so it's
Yeah.
really approachable, and it's
I think that's part
Yeah.
of.
the genius
I-
behind Rocky Patel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I really do think that he understands his addressable market. I think these guys aren't dumb. He understands like that market who he can address and bring them something at a price point, dress it up. It's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
You dress it up. It's $16. It's like not over the top. It's an approachable smoke. There's nothing offensive about it. The end user feels kind of like good about their choice. Eventually, if the person sticks with the hobby, they're going to graduate up to things that are stronger. I just think he gets the market. I think the company really understands the segmentation within.
There's just one thing that I disagree with that a number of guys are saying. I keep hearing, we're not the market for this cigar. I don't agree with that. I think this cigar is incredibly versatile. Like, I think this whole notion, like we only smoke full body cigars, I mean, that's nonsense. We don't. Like,
We
we
don't.
have a rotation for a reason. We start with a lighter cigar, like
Mhm.
something that's medium. We build in strength usually as we're in a smoking session. So like,
Yeah. This could
to
be a
me,
starter.
This could easily be a starter.
Yeah.
I remember when we did the Aging Room Sonata and I was going back and forth with Gizmo about my 10, like
Ah.
I kept getting asked, where would you slot that in? Are you going to slot that over a Padron? And I'm like, I'd have that first and then the Padron. And this
That
cigar,
was fucking hilarious, by the way. That
which if we would count how many everyone here smokes of that cigar, my 10 has stood up very
We're still
well.
litigating the.
Yeah, but I just say
Feeling
like
vindicated all of a sudden.
I've been vindicated since the moment we ended that recording.
It's
But
true.
You're not wrong.
I just say that because I don't think like every cigar is not competing for the same slot in our rotation.
Nope.
Yeah.
And the only time I get frustrated is like when we pigeonhole a Nicaraguan cigar into they all must be this full body thing and the closer, the last cigar, like they all don't. And that's the beauty of the Sonata. And I think that's the beauty of what Rocky's done with this cigar. Like this is an opener. I'm enjoying it. I think we are also the market. And to have a cigar that like not one person in this room has said, this is offensive. I hate this.
Mm-mm.
It lacks any flavor. Like none of us are complaining
Correct.
wildly about this cigar.
Correct.
So we
Okay.
are part of that market, and that's a merit.
Okay, but how much is the? Let me ask you a question. Can I just challenge a little
Yeah.
bit? How much is the Aston VSG Robusto?
$12.
Yeah,
T-
probably
10,
12 bucks.
Okay,
For Robusto,
okay,
Yeah.
right. So
which is probably the same as this in Robusto.
correct. My argument is that cigar at that price point just delivers a lot more complexity, body, and is more sophisticated than this.
So I agree with you on body, but I don't on complexity. I actually think it's a pretty straightforward cigar. I wouldn't call the VSG a complex cigar.
Yeah, my argument.
Okay,
And I think
Fair
it's
enough,
trying
but-
to deliver more body. Like it says, like one of the boldest cigars that like was it Carlito that helped them blend that?
Yep.
Mhm.
Like they were going for bold, like against the Ashton grain, and I don't think Rocky's going for bold with this.
No, he's not.
So, boys, let's talk about the bourbon for a second. The double oaked from Woodford Reserve. So, what's cool about this is it's as Ricky was talking about, uniquely matured in separate charred oak barrels, and this is wild. The second barrel is deeply toasted before a light charring, which extracts additional soft, sweet oak character. So, I guess Ricky maybe knows more about this than the rest of us, but so they're taking a second barrel, they're toasting it, and then pouring the first barrel into the second barrel and imparting that flavor.
Yeah, and what that does is it brings a more pronounced and fuller flavor, if you will, and just another level of complexity to the finished spirit. You'll see this with some tequila manufacturers choose specific barrels or specific brands because they go lighter on toast, and then some would do the opposite, but they often highlight it. And a darker toast usually brings a more pronounced, complex flavor, if you will, and maybe sometimes even tannic. So
The finish for sure.
Yeah.
There's a little tannic there.
Let's go through the tasting notes that Woodford provides here on this bourbon. They say the nose has rich notes of dark fruit, caramel, sharp honey, chocolate, marzipan, and toasted oak. The taste, they're saying, is a mix of vanilla, dark caramel,
Mhm.
hazelnut, apple, fruit, and spices. And the finish is long and creamy with lingering hints of honeyed apple. I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Although I agree with your cherry flavor, your call out on cherry was right on.
I'm definitely
it's
getting cherry.
cherry,
there.
so
Definitely.
more than apple, I would think.
Also, don't laugh though. What's that almond paste that you have in some
Marzipan.
pastries?
Marzipan.
That's what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they called
They
it
nailed
out.
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is cool too. The proof on this is 90.4%, 45.2% alcohol by volume. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, and I'm surprised I'm having it without ice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone's
without-
drinking it neat.
It's very smooth without ice.
Well, that's a statement right there.
So we did the normal standard Woodford Reserve bourbon quite some time ago. We'll go through the rating a little bit later. I'm curious what you guys think of how this stacks up to the standard issue Woodford Reserve. And I know Puba's a big fan of that bourbon. I'm curious what you guys think.
I'll just say, I mean, I really like the regular Woodford, and I feel like most spirits, when they have like a really popular staple, like the traditional Woodford bourbon that you can find everywhere, and then they come out with like this variation of it where they've just done something different. The double oak. I'm usually disappointed, and I say like you had a great thing going, like why mess with it? This is one of the few that I think this is like the perfect representation of just an elevated standard Woodford that just has more body,
Mhm.
more flavor, still smooth. We're all sipping it neat.
Yep.
I think it's a great sipping bourbon.
Agreed. And
Yeah.
honestly, with ice, this I can do in the spring or summer as well. No issues for me.
I think standard Woodford probably presents a little more pepper forward from what I remember. This is definitely, especially on the nose, much sweeter. So yeah, if you enjoy regular Woodford, this will not let you down.
Like, just quickly, there's even a cognac like character about this. Like, cognac has like a really rich, intense fruitiness to it.
Yeah.
And that's the first sip I took. I was like, this is like cognac meets bourbon.
Well, yeah, there's
I
a little
can't disagree with that.
There's a little viscosity to it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cognac has a much longer finish. At least the ones that we've enjoyed here on the pod have much longer finishes than this one does. But yeah, I agree with you. There
Yeah,
is
but
some
this has a
parallels.
longer finish than the regular Woodford.
For sure. Yeah. But I'm just
Mhm.
comparing it to the cognacs. I find cognacs have there was one in particular that was super like wine forward. I can't remember what we had. It was recently. It was since I've been on the pod. That was really good.
So what's interesting, this bottle, I would have expected it to be more pricey. It's
yeah.
only $56.
Wow.
Wow.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So how much is regular Woodford? Like 30?
30.
So for
Really?
another
35?
$25, I think that the step up here is
worth it?
worth it.
Yeah, I see this. I see this around Thanksgiving.
Oh,
I see it around. I
Christmas.
see it around Christmas.
That's a good point.
Yeah, very apropos to the timing of
after
this.
dinner, you can have a piece of chocolate.
Just be
and-
great in
and-
an
and
old fashioned with
the-
some chocolate bitters and yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh yeah.
Now we
You make an
cooking.
old fashioned out of this.
Yeah.
It would elevate it. I think.
Mhm.
I really do.
Just bring out that orange character a little bit. Some chocolate bitters or mole
So,
bitters.
When are you going to make that for us?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Pagoda looks like he's ready to make them right now.
now.
No. Now I'm going to defer to
Thank
Chef
you.
Ricky.
Yes.
You know, it's a good point. I'm gonna start stocking some basic mixology tools and mixers in my locker.
There you
I
go.
used to,
For moments like this.
There you go.
I used to make more old fashions, and I went through a couple of years where I used to make them more, and
Well, we're coming into that time of year.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good old days.
A good old
And you know
fashioned
what?
can't be beat.
Yeah,
That's a
good-
great
no.
drink.
yeah, really good old
A
fashioned
smoked old fashioned.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, smoked
One of
old
my
fashions
favorites.
are great.
Haven't had one of those.
If you're gonna do it smoked, then just go all the way and do it with mezcal.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good. I like that.
Damn, homeboy.
And you know what else is coming in? We're coming into the fall, and like the Talisker and things like that. Are nice this time of year.
Yeah, appropriate time.
I love the Lagavulin. 16 this time of year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Around the holidays, that's when I reach for it. Especially when I can't have a cigar, there's something going on at the house, and I want something that has a little bit of smoke to it.
Is this the time of year where Crown Royale becomes appropriate?
The room went silent.
What are we talking about now?
Yeah, what is a Crown Royale?
Or Chevis. I thought you were going to say Chevis.
Chivas.
Oh, was it Chivas?
Or it was Chivas.
Sorry,
and-
miscited
and-
the
and-
spirit.
Chef just went into the hot tub time machine.
Was it Chivas? I thought it was
Yeah,
Crown
Chivas
Royale.
Regal.
That's right. Yeah, I
Yeah,
got
it was
those
a
two
bad day.
confused.
Chivas 18.
There's no good time for that.
No.
So, boys, I wanted to share that I was in the Dominican Republic for the first time.
Yeah, man.
And I was a guest of La Aurora. And I went down there for about 6 days, 5-6 days. They invited me down. And it was a great, great week. And I wanted to share with you guys a little bit about it.
I'm so looking forward to this. This was just before Cuba, right?
This was right before Cuba. It actually led into Cuba.
Beautiful.
So I actually flew from the Dominican Republic after this experience right to Cuba, and I met Senator and Lizard Henry there first, and then the other guys came in. And then, of course, as we noted,
So you were on this beautiful trip in DR in paradise, and then you get to Cuba and have to climb 15 flights of steps.
that's exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that was not fun. So any listener who hasn't heard our Cuba recap episode and our Tales of Pagoda's Woes with a power outage, tune into the episode we put out a couple weeks ago. So that trip followed the trip I'm about to talk about, where I went to Santiago in the Dominican Republic as a guest of La Aurora, and it was fantastic. So I have to shout out, La Aurora knows how to put together an event for their guests. They are incredible hosts. All the people there are super into the podcast, super supportive of what we're doing, and really just wanted me to come down alongside some other media folks and just experience their
Hospitality.
their factory, their production, their story. And I left really, really impressed. And I think my first impression being in the Dominican Republic and starting to have these experiences in the Dominican Republic, of course, my brain automatically, I'm starting to compare it to Cuba, right? Because we've been to Cuba so many times. And I couldn't believe, and this is my naivety, I guess, I couldn't believe how much more advanced the Dominican Republic is versus my perception of what it was going to be. I was telling someone I felt being in Santiago, going to Tamboril, the free zone where a lot of the cigar manufacturers are, I felt like I had gone to Pennsylvania. The highways out of the city, there were woods everywhere. I mean, it really felt like I was close to home.
People speaking English, you were right at home.
There were a lot of English speakers, yes. There were a lot of English
playing all over the place.
But it was
sounds like the heart of Pennsylvania.
It was really eye-opening, and I feel that we have done ourselves a disservice here in the room for not going to Dominican Republic yet.
People love the DR.
Oh yeah,
and it is a destination. I know all types of different people who go to the Dominican Republic often for all different kinds of reasons.
They
Such
have
as?
they have chips.
They do have chips.
they have Doritos.
Yes.
That's why Puba doesn't want to go to Cuba, by the way.
Yes. He says.
Well, it's the infrastructure.
I know.
And all that stuff is definitely better. It's a little bit more, it's accessible. By the way, great golf in Dominican Republic.
I didn't experience any of that.
Great golf.
Yeah, they have amazing
No, but there's
courses.
great that you got the teeth of the dog down there. You've got resorts.
Yeah,
and
Jack Nicklaus courses.
Yeah. So there's a lot of luxury resorts, and if you want to go that kind of route in the DR, where you're a little, it's a little more of a local native feel, there's that too. I know a lot of NYPD guys who go down there. Either they're in retirement and your dollar goes a long way. They spend a lot, they spend extended periods of time down there and just enjoy themselves.
And that's the experience I had. It was really, really refreshing and surprising to me. And again, the hospitality was amazing.
Tell us about the factory.
So, well, I'll start with this. So we landed on Tuesday night, and the first thing that happened is there was a welcome dinner. So they had all of us get together. They took us to this beautiful restaurant called Maru, a brand new restaurant, like brand new. So here I'm thinking, oh man, I'd really love to have a cigar. Like I haven't had a cigar in 2 days, flew all day today. I really want a cigar. Man, we get in this beautiful restaurant. They put us in this back room, which is it looked like a boardroom out of like the movies, right? Maybe for 30 people. They closed the doors and they said, all right, everybody, we can light up.
No.
And I was like
No.
shocked. The cigar culture is so similar to Cuba.
Really?
You can smoke anywhere. I was shocked.
Cool.
And there's people out in the restaurant just having dinner. And in our room, we were all lighting up. There, it was amazing. The filtration was great, but I couldn't believe it. This brand new restaurant. Brand new restaurant. We sat down, and the food was incredible. And I got to meet Guillermo, who owns the company, third, fourth generation now. Very, very successful in the DR. And the whole team there, that first dinner was really, really amazing. Got to meet everybody and get the whole week started.
Can you tell me about one dish you had, maybe, or one item?
We had a tomahawk.
Tostones.
We had a tomahawk steak that was one of the best I've ever had. I split it with another member of the media who was there.
That's very Dominican.
And
Remember, he's in the heart of Pennsylvania.
Correct.
that was
The next course was venison.
that was what we had, and it was brilliant.
Nice.
They had
I was hoping to hear mofongo.
Yeah, tostones, queso
Tostones.
frito.
I will say the
salami.
tostones were very good in Dominican Republic, but they did not rival the experience I had in Cuba with the tostones. Cuba wins the tostones war
Wow.
for me. No offense to our Dominican listeners.
I hear
out
the
there.
beaches are beautiful.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I went to a beach.
Gizmo on a beach.
Yeah, I went to a beach. It's
And
all
you
good.
didn't malfunction. This is unbelievable.
How much sunscreen were you wearing?
So that's the last day. So the next morning, we went to the factory for the first time, and we met Guillermo again. We met some of the team there, Manuel Inoa, who's the master blender. If you've ever been to like PCA, he was there. He's at every single event. He speaks great English. Of course, he speaks Spanish, so he's a great ambassador for the brand. Master blender of everything they do. He's completely in charge of all of that, and he's great. So we had a wonderful welcome introduction, and then we walked through the factory. And I couldn't believe how robust and well-built these factories are.
And modern.
Modern, air conditioning everywhere. Again, comparing to Cuba.
Mhm.
All of the workers were wearing PPE. There's hand sanitizer everywhere. Like, it really felt like a warehouse here in the United States. You know, completely the opposite
Yeah.
of what's happening in Cuba.
Yeah.
And again, I hesitate to keep saying that, but that's where my brain was at the entire time, was comparing these experiences that I had. Like, it's like I went to an Amazon warehouse with La Aurora, and it's
Mhm.
like I'm going to a destitute, you know,
Well, you're not.
Well,
that's not far off.
rundown in Cuba.
I mean,
Well,
it is
well,
what
they're
it
doing
is.
it the same way they did it 100 years ago in Cuba,
And they haven't changed.
Yep.
They can't change.
which is kind of the beauty of it, which is kind of the
That's true. Mm-hmm.
It gave me great appreciation for what's actually happening in Cuba, and how resilient the Cuban people are, and the fact that they're able to produce what they do with so little. It was eye-opening being in the DR and seeing what they have and what they're able to do, which is brilliant in its own way. It was eye-opening as to what Cuba's able to.
Now, isn't La
produce.
Aurora one of the oldest factories? either
It
way?
is the oldest
oldest.
factory.
It is the oldest
The
factory.
oldest.
So they've kept up with the times and they've evolved.
And
In
I
terms of the-
think
yeah,
that
yeah.
they've moved a couple times.
Yeah.
Now they're in what's called the free zone.
Yeah.
So they have these gated industrial communities, quote unquote, where there's no tax duty in and out, because the stuff that's being manufactured there is not for consumption inside the Dominican Republic.
Interesting.
So they have these free zones, which then opens up, new industry to come in. So there's a lot of sneaker manufacturers in this same park, a lot of cigar manufacturers.
And everything there manufactured by all these companies are exported.
Exactly.
Yeah,
There's
I see.
nothing to be
they're
consumed.
doing. They do textiles?
Textiles, clothing,
Wow.
shoes,
Wow.
candy. I mean, there's tons of different stuff, and it's in this massive industrial park. And La Aurora is one of the cigar manufacturers there. So we then, after we toured the factory briefly, we went out to one of their farms, and we got in a van, went out and experienced the farms. And again, you see how different it is versus Cuba and what they have. Completely,
Like the tech,
yeah,
the
tech,
irrigation.
machinery, irrigation. They just have everything.
So it wasn't like a trip to Pinar del Rio.
It was not Pinar del Rio.
Yeah, you didn't almost get ejected from the car like 10 times on the way there?
No, no.
No seatbelts in Cuba, folks.
So the tilling isn't the tiller isn't run by a mule.
No, it isn't. So we had a nice visit at the farm, and then we went back to the factory after about an hour, learned a lot about the tobacco production process, saw the seedlings, saw the plants, walked through the entire process, and how they take care of their plants. We talked a lot about disease and how they're constantly checking the soil for disease. I guess they have a microbiologist on staff that they're constantly checking the soil to make sure that, it's not ridden with, things that are going to
Mhm.
kill their crop, and they have a lot of acreage in the Dominican Republic, of course, where they produce their tobacco. They're one of the biggest there. So we got back to the plant, and then we went through the processes that they go through to produce tobacco. It's very similar to what we saw in Cuba: fermentation, aging, the pre-preparation, how they destem. I found it interesting. They do not. We talked about the Cuba episode. When they destem those,
Mhm.
they
soak
grind it up and they send it back out,
Yeah, or they soak it in water
and they soak
as
it.
a pesticide.
Exactly. And
That's
they send
right.
it back out to the farms as pesticide. They don't do any of that in
Wow.
the Dominican Republic. It's not used
Mhm.
at all.
Interesting.
So I found that interesting. So then we went through a seminar by Manuel Inoa, who I was talking about is the master blender there, walked us through their process, talked about the 5 senses and what you experience when you're smoking a cigar. And then we did a tasting seminar. And I actually brought you a copy, a duplicate of the training kit that we used during this part of the day, which was one of my favorite things that we did, where we were given a box with a cigar in it, a finished La Aurora cigar.
That's a beautiful box, by the way. So you got 4
So-
4 cigars.
Yeah, so right here there are 4 Puro cigars. So what was happening is each of the 4 components of the tobacco inside the finished product we smoked each of those individual puros.
That's cool.
So
That's
you
cool.
tasted what the first tobacco provides versus the second versus the third versus the fourth in the filler.
Really
So-
get to isolate those flavors and see
Exactly.
what they all bring to the finished product.
And what was amazing about it is as we went through this process, and we probably only smoked a little bit of it because it's a puro, right? So, we probably smoked about a half an inch or an inch of each of these. By the end of this, my palate and brain was so fatigued because the puro experience is so overwhelming, which is why the blend needs to happen of different tobaccos. It's like, when Chef Ricky's making a dish at his restaurant, he's trying to find things that complement, add, take away, put a recipe together that's going to be a pleasant smoke, because each of these individual puros, these tobaccos themselves,
Mhm.
cannot be smoked
No.
as a puro in
I would
the-
also
in the
think there's
tobacco.
a percentage of each of those cigars at different percentages that go into the final blend.
Exactly.
Right.
So can
Yeah.
I,
And that's the secret that they wouldn't tell us.
Of course.
They don't tell us how much of each of these four,
Which we don't know in Cuba
is in the
either, by
filler.
the way.
So I can actually walk you through what each of these four are. So number one here is a Criollo 98 from Peru. This one is a Criollo 98 from Bahia. The third one is Nicaraguan Criollo 98. And the fourth is Piloto Cubano from the Dominican Republic. So what's interesting about these four is these first three are technically the same seed grown in three different geographical areas. And
Wow.
the
so
difference
It's,
in
so
these-
it's
was
Dominican
unbelievable.
seed grown in different regions.
Exactly.
I see.
Exactly. So there's four different types of puro
Probably
tobacco in
different soils, different sun exposure, and water exposure.
everything's different. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So these four fillers that we smoked, these puros, ended up as the filler in the final blend. Of course, like I said, we don't know what the percentages are. That's the
Mhm.
magic of it.
Can I ask a stupid question
Sure.
just for my own education? They're not, but those aren't Dominican puros really necessarily, because
No, actually only one of
there's
them was a
only one of the-
Dominican puro. They're all puros. One was from Peru, one was from Bahia, one was from Nicaragua, one from Dominican
I
Republic.
see. So they're puros from those four different regions.
Yep.
They basically roll them and smoke them and then determine how they're going to blend it.
Exactly. So Manuel Inoa gets a directive from the leadership at La Aurora and says, this is the kind of cigar we're looking for. This is the kind of profile. This is what it's going to be. And he goes out and starts trying these puros to start putting together
A
the
blend.
individual ingredients of how he's going to create that blend.
It's almost like with wine, like they're taking grapes, different grapes from different regions if they were making a meritage, and then deciding what the balance is going to be to make the blend.
Exactly.
So, boys, I want to get back to this in a second. We're about the halfway point here on the Rocky Patel 60. What's everybody thinking right now?
Well, it's stayed incredibly consistent. I don't think it's changed at all for me. It's actually becoming a bit tough to smoke right now.
Really?
Yeah, because it's so wide open. The cigar is getting really, really soft. Not liking that too much, but I can't say it's offensive, but hasn't gotten any more interesting for me.
Mine's not soft. I mean, maybe it's just if you're smoking a little fast.
Could be.
I think in the second half, it picks up just a little bit in
And
strength,
spice.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
A little
And a
bit.
little
Which-
spice. Yeah.
which is nice because I think we were wanting some transition
Yeah.
and a little more body, and I think it's definitely delivering some more of that. But I do think flavor profile wise, it's pretty consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, for me, especially on the Retro Hill where it was so kind of clean earlier on. Now
Very.
I'm getting a little bit of a tickle. The spices got kicked up just
There's a little bit of
Just a hair.
pepper coming
Pepper, yeah.
through now
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the back of your
Yep.
Yeah.
tongue. You
It's,
feel
it's
that
like
a
right
little
at this end of the third, it's like kicked up like 10-15%.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
How are you guys feeling with the pairing with the bourbon with this right now, based on what you were just saying?
I like it honestly even more just with the
Yeah.
pepper that picks up in it. I like the sweetness to balance out the
Mhm.
spice.
Yeah, I mean, I do need the drink now. I think it's also relatively dry, so it gets a little of the tobacco.
That's kind of where I'm
Yeah,
at.
so
The
that's why, like, when I
finish is dry.
That's
yeah,
where
when
I'm
I
at
get
right now.
when I get a sip of the drink, it just
Mhm. It does level you out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the pairing now works better than it did earlier on.
Mhm.
Oh,
sure.
for sure, for sure. It's a decent affair. I mean, it's. I really don't have much negative to say about it. Did it like blow my hair back? No.
Yeah.
but pretty good.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's a pretty
Yeah.
damn good cigar. $16, this size, the biggest cigar we've ever done on this podcast. I'm surprised across the board as to how it's performing for me and how it's tasting. And I love it with the bourbon right now.
Same. I mean, to Booba's point, if we didn't smoke this and someone handed me this cigar, there's no chance I would light it
Of
up.
course.
Zero.
Yeah.
Having smoked this,
We
someone
almost, by
handed
the
it
way,
to me-
when I mentioned that we were doing this cigar on the podcast tonight, we almost didn't do it.
yeah, Rooster got a
Rooster almost
an
quit.
upper respiratory infection immediately upon you announcing this was a cigar.
Just the name gives me.
No, and as soon as they drove in, I saw him walk out. He says, "I'm done. I'm leaving." I said, "Why?" There's a Rocky Patel in there.
I don't know. I think Rocky's changing some opinions tonight in the room. All right, so back to my trip to La Aurora in the Dominican Republic. So we left the tasting seminar. I learned a lot about the process of these blenders and how they think and how they work and how they're constantly trying different types of tobacco, and trying those puros was really eye-opening for me. And again, I couldn't get past how fatigued I was, how fatigued my palate was after smoking the puros. It really does show the magic in some of these cigars we love, how brilliant these
Blenders are.
blending decisions are, and they're
Sure.
micro decisions. It's very similar, I would think, to what Puba said about wine, or what we're talking about with bourbon, or what Chef does at his restaurants.
Yeah, same
You
thing.
know?
Same thing with food. 100%. Especially items that are highly high in fat. Super fatty proteins, or just things where you're curing product and they tend to be lean, a little salty, or even overly sweet. Or whatever that note is, you just kind of get tired of it, and it's hard to wash it off, and you need to kind of reset. You have access to seltzer there, or
Actually, they were giving us seltzer during the. I'm glad you asked that. They were giving us seltzer during the tasting, and
This is
Manuel
like Pooba with Doritos, but Gizmo with seltzer. Like he
Manuel-
wouldn't survive without it.
Manuel was demanding that we sip seltzer in between each puro, and he had raw, freshly roasted coffee beans to clear our nose. So the seltzer was to clear the palate, and the freshly roasted coffee beans we
yeah,
were sniffing in between to clear our nose out.
It's very interesting. I'm glad you had that experience
Yeah.
because it's taking you through almost the blender's journey of the decision making process.
Yeah.
It sounds like a very cool experience where they kind of stepped you through the decision making process of how they're getting to a blend.
Yeah.
Where it's almost like we're gonna take this, and this, and we're gonna roll them up,
yeah.
and we're gonna try them, and then where do we find the balance to make to create an expression that is unique and that we're happy with,
And also
Like-
aligns
like-
with the
like-
directive. Aligns with the directive from
Yeah.
what leadership is wanting out of a new release for, in this case, 120th anniversary or 107th anniversary, whatever it is.
yeah.
It
It's-
has to match that.
It's like cooking. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
It's what chef does.
chef that like I'm gonna taste the sauce. I'm gonna taste these ingredients, and then we're gonna try and find the balance to create something that works.
Yeah, so it's really genius if what they actually did was went to the blender and say, "Hey, this is the directive. This is what we're envisioning." And if this guy has the capacity, the knowledge to say, "Okay, I'm going to source this and this and this and these tobaccos," or if it was actually, "Hey, this is what we have a lot of right now. Make something great," right? And you're shaking your head no, so you're saying that wasn't the case.
So what
either one is
Yeah.
genius.
So what he told me is he has a master spreadsheet. When he tastes tobacco, he details what he tastes in that tobacco. He marks the year and the crop and all that. And even if they have it in the warehouse for a few years, he can go back to his spreadsheet and start to look at what his palate provided him in the past and start to put together, what's going to
Sure.
work for this blend. And then I can't imagine how many iterations they're smoking to finally get to that last product, which is what all
So
blenders are doing.
this
It's a
makes me-
recipe. It's
Exactly.
like making a recipe.
This
But
makes me
you-
super curious of
yeah.
like the Davidoff Chef's Edition process of
Yeah.
how you get all those chefs together. Are they doing something similar? How did this compare to when you were on the blending panel or the tasting panel for the
FOH.
FOH cigars?
Yeah, well, the FOH cigars, they had done most of this legwork, like Manuel had done, right? They're trying all different kinds of tobacco. And then when we were getting sent something, it was a product that they were fairly happy with, and they wanted feedback. And then
Got
they
it.
would iterate again with that feedback, and finally the Mofo line came out.
So it's
based
probably
on that
something
feedback.
it's probably a very similar approach for the Chef's Edition.
Absolutely.
Because
It's
Yeah.
the same
It's gotta
approach.
be.
It's the
It's
same
gotta be.
approach for every cigar we've
Yeah.
ever smoked. I mean,
Correct.
this is what blenders do.
That's
This
right.
is the job. It's
Yeah.
trying every type of tobacco that they could possibly want to blend in creating that perfect blend.
And he was telling me that he prefers, and I think this is pretty obvious, smoking in the morning right after breakfast is when he feels his palate is sharpest,
That's
Just like
interesting.
Rooster.
So-
yeah,
just like Rooster.
it's funny. I think a lot of the blenders are that way because Rafael Nadal, the aging room guy who's a blender, he always posts photos like when he's at work, like in an intense way. It's the morning, and he'll post like a photo of like 10 different cigars of different types of tobacco that like he smoked a bit of, trying to come up with a new blend for
Yeah,
some brand that
that's
he's working with. So I think it's very similar for a lot of guys.
And I would think for a lot of these blenders, the afternoon and evenings are dedicated to trying finished product, not just of what they're making, but of what other manufacturers are making to kind of get,
Hmm.
a read on what the industry is doing.
Makes
Right.
sense.
Like,
you
what's
know.
the open space?
Exactly. So I found it very, very eye-opening, that whole tasting panel experience at the Cigar Institute there. It was really robust and complete, and I learned a whole hell of a lot. And
It's
I can't wait
incredible.
for you guys to experience it as
incredible.
Yeah,
well.
it
And
seems
it's-
like an educational experience we all need to go through.
It is. Yeah.
And it's hard because it's a crowded marketplace. When you really think about it, I mean, the cigar market, it's very, very crowded, and they're dealing with one ingredient. It's not like you can take like one thing. When you're cooking, you can take a bunch of different ingredients and a bunch of different things that you can add
Yeah.
on, spices,
Well, to Giz's point, right?
things,
If this guy,
sauces, and all these things, but you got only tobacco to deal with.
but to Giz's point, if this guy has a spreadsheet knowing what every tobacco is going to bring to the table, then he knows, okay, I need to lean a little sweeter here. I need to get something a little more mineral forward, and then he probably seeks out those tobaccos on his spreadsheet. And I mean,
Yeah, and for him,
that's-
he makes a phone call and says, "Bring me this from this
Yeah.
region, this
yeah,
age period," and they
awesome.
deliver it to him, and he rolls a puro and
Yeah.
smokes it.
I mean, it's got to be hard to come out with a unique blend.
Totally.
Something very different from what everybody else is doing. And then Manuel, I guess that's his
Yeah,
name. right?
Manuel Inoa.
He has to know how much quantity of each kind of tobacco that you have. I mean, if you decide to go with that blend, you want to make sure
You got to make sure you have
you
enough.
have enough tobacco.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you can just throw Bernays like a different slant on Bernays sauce on top of something to just make it stand out. Or I'm going to take chestnut butter and I'm going to throw it on top of a fillet, and it's just going to, or whatever it is.
Chef could run to the A&P if he runs out of something.
Right. Well, chef, you know what I'm saying. I mean, you can,
100%, yeah.
there's, you're dealing with kind of like one raw material product in a crowded market. It's got to be tough.
So once we finished up with the tasting panel, we had another great meal at a restaurant called El Tablon, which was outside. Again, another wonderful meal, but it felt very American for me in what we were all ordering. And Elvis, who was kind of running the whole trip for us, did a lot of the ordering for us. It was a fantastic meal.
And and
Very
the
good
same
food.
thing happens for me in Mexico when I used to go on these mezcal and tequila trips, and these brands will take you to these restaurants, and a couple times I'd go to the kitchen on my way to the restroom. I'd find the kitchen, and I'll go, and speaking Spanish, it's easy to communicate with everyone. So I go in the kitchen. I'm like, I want what you eat. And
But
then
you
I'll get a different plate of something, and everyone's at the table like, "Hey, how'd you get that?" And I spoke to the kitchen.
Everybody else is like, Senor Frogs was great. Let's go to Margaritaville next.
So the next morning, we went even a step further on the tasting journey and understanding how blenders work. And we were tasked with blending our own cigar. So they allowed us to pick from 3 different types of wrapper, 3 different types of binder, and 4 different types of filler to create and blend our own cigars.
And they rolled them on the spot.
We rolled them.
You?
We rolled them.
You?
Yes.
Forget about
Please,
you.
please tell
Yes.
me you brought the cigar that you
I have
rolled.
them with me.
I can't
So-
wait to see this.
My Lord.
So we were given a choice of Connecticut, HVA, and San Andres for wrapper. The binder, we had a choice between Sumatra Ecuadorian, Corojo, and Cameroon from Ecuador. And the filler, we had 4 choices: Ligero from Nicaragua, Corojo from Dominican. We had Olor from the Dominican, and we had Seco Olor, which was also from the Dominican. So we had to make some blending decisions. So of course we know Ligero provides strength, Seco provides burn, so you got to balance that out. So we were all doing these math equations, trying to figure out how many leaves to take, how many, what our blends were going to be.
Gizmo
Did you have your calculator with you?
Oh, I had my iPad.
I'm
I was
just
doing it.
imagining Gizmo,
Gizmo
like the
wasn't
guy in
having-
the guy in The Hangover with all the numbers like around him.
He's like, this is-
Gizmo was on Minority Report, just
Correct.
swatting things.
So we were rolling Robustos. So that was the plan. And we had to take, and I learned that each Robusto had 5.5 leaves in them. So we had to pick, we were going to roll 10 cigars. So we had to pick 55 leaves. And not only did they allow us to choose the tobacco, we then went downstairs from the Cigar Institute room and went to the barrels, and they had the barrels lined up, and we were digging through the barrels, picking the actual leaves of tobacco we wanted
That's cool.
for our
That's cool.
our blends, which was awesome.
I like
So
that.
what was the wrapper you picked?
Please, can we see this?
While pagodas in Cuba with no light, Gizmo's fucking in cigar heaven. Indeed.
So for the wrapper, I chose San Andres from Mexico.
Nice.
For the
Fantastic.
binder, I chose Sumatran from Ecuador. And then the filler, I did a blend of the 3 Ligeros, pretty even blend. And then I did about 30% of the Seco.
So
Yeah,
you
so I
sounds
have a
great.
blend.
you copied the Plasencia blend.
Pretty much, yeah. That's what I was going
Oh,
for.
yeah.
How quickly did it burn?
So we didn't. So I haven't tried them yet. I did bring them. So what was amazing now is we choose our leaves and we go to the rolling room, and this rolling room is incredible. There's music playing, air conditioning, lights. Everybody's having a good time. There must have been 300 rollers on the floor.
Gizmo's requesting the Bee Gees.
I was putting my requests in for the music, of course.
Steely Dan.
It was really really impressive. And what they did is they took each of the 10 of us or 8 of us, I think, and they paired each of us with a roller. And I was thinking, oh, I'm just going to hand these leaves over and they're going to roll. Well, they rolled one, and then they said, okay, now it's your turn. So then we had to sit down and roll 9 cigars of our
How'd
own.
that
Please
go?
pass
So
out one of these.
I do have a
cigars.
box,
just
which
have
I
to see it.
gotta share. This is pretty amazing.
These things are gonna look like Arnold Schwarzenegger's arms.
So I have a La Aurora owner's choice box, which has my name engraved on it
Very nice.
that they had prepared for us. And then inside are the 10 cigars that I rolled, the 10 Robustos,
Wow.
Look
which
at
has
this.
a La
Are you
Aurora,
kidding me?
a La Aurora band, and then a second band.
Hold
that
on.
they had
hold
printed
on.
with
no,
our
no,
names
no,
on
no,
them.
no. He did not roll that.
You did. You'll
You
see
rolled
the,
that?
You'll
Pass
see the
one around.
imperfections. Just take the whole box.
My Lord. I am.
So I have to tell the listeners while you guys are passing this around, anybody can go and have this Cigar Institute experience.
that's
It's a
cool.
paid for experience, and you really get to immerse yourself in how cigars are created. And I really recommend listeners check that out. And if you are going to Santiago, if you're going to go to Tamboril, go to La Aurora and experience this. They have almost like a museum curator there that knows the entire history of La Aurora. He speaks 6 or 8 languages. I mean, this guy knows everything. Between the museum experience, the Cigar Institute, rolling our own cigars, it was really, really a brilliant, brilliant week. So what do you think, Bam? How do my cigars look?
I don't know. They've been infected by his nose, but
And you can see the second band has my name printed on it, the white band.
So there's 9 cigars in here. I'd say 6 are rolled pretty nicely. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
I thought-
That's
I-
impressive.
I thought you were going to hand each one of us one.
You can have one.
Oh, really? There you
Yeah,
go.
sure.
Thank
That's. I mean, honestly, I can't do that.
We need video of you
Oh,
rolling.
I would love to. Yes, we need proof.
You know what I was very good at? I was
I'm
very
worried
good.
Gizmo slipped a
Yeah.
20 to someone and someone else rolled.
Oh no,
it.
Manuel was not having that. He was all eyes, making sure that each of us were rolling our own cigars. And what I found was that I was very good at bunching the cigars in the hand. So you take the leaves and you bunch the filler, and then you put it into the binder. I was very good at bunching, but once I got to the point of having to put the binder on them, that's where I was having difficulty.
How did you get the cap on?
Yeah.
They taught us. I had somebody helping me, and they were pointing it out, and I had the tool. It was crazy.
So
Sen-
how
Senator,
long-
if Giz can
Yeah,
do it,
so you
easy
can-
peasy.
you
Let's
can,
go.
Well, you can see. I'm going to pass this around, but you can see where you got like better at the cap,
Yeah.
and then where you struggled. But this is really
Not bad.
How long did
mean-
it take you to roll one cigar?
One cigar, well, so there's two factors in it. So the first part was the bunching and then putting the binder on it. And then they put it into the press,
Yeah.
right into the molds, and then they pressed them for about an hour. So we went and had lunch while they were in the press. Then we came back and put the wrapper on them. So the first part to bunch and bind those 10 cigars that you guys are looking at took probably about, for me, probably took about 20, 25 minutes through
For
the instruction.
each cigar.
No, total for all of them.
20
Wow.
minutes.
Yeah, it took
Wow.
about 20, 25
That's
minutes.
impressive.
And
And-
then they went into the mold and the buncher, and then we came back, and then we had to put the wrappers on. And I was really bad at the wrapper part. I kept ripping them.
Yeah, that's tough.
You know, that was very, very. That's the subtlety involved in making the wrapper look as good as even this Rocky Patel we have in our hand tonight. Those invisible seams. I mean, these people that make cigars,
It's an
they're
art.
artists.
They're craftsmen.
They're
for
artists.
sure.
You really have to stretch the wrapper leaf while you're rolling.
And I was trying to do that, but if you do it too much, you
Too
rip
much,
it.
it
Oh,
just-
It
man.
rips because they're so thin.
Like I said, I think most of those look okay.
What about a draw machine?
I didn't see a draw machine. We didn't put those through, but they do have those tools there.
Do
And
they
I-
put their cigars through a draw
Yes,
machine?
they do. Yes,
Yeah.
they do. They have a lot of quality control there. Very robust quality control. I was very impressed.
I wonder how many of those are plugged.
So, what do you guys think of the look of them?
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
actually look good, and others,
Like I said,
mean,
yeah.
you know, it's a learning
I
experience.
think 6 out of 9 are pretty good.
Pretty good, right?
Absolutely.
I'd
Even with,
say
even
it-
with
it-
those stubby fingers of yours.
So that was that was the first time, you know, having been to Cuba as many times as we've been, to sit down at the desk and actually roll a cigar, bunch a cigar, roll it, wrap it, everything. It was a totally new experience for me, and I'm very, very grateful to La Aurora for letting me have that experience. And I can't wait for you guys to get down there and do it yourselves. And I just love the presentation, the name engraved on the box. Like they really
it
took the
sounds
time.
fun.
Yeah,
Very
the tobacco
professional.
leaves surrounding the cigar. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
But like on like 2/3 of those, the caps came out pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there were a couple that were really bad. Really bad.
so we've got to hear about this beach
Oh.
day.
So that okay. So that night.
Gizmo at a beach. This is a sight to be seen.
Adonis on a beach
So all right. So
in a black hoodie.
with his lily white skin.
so before the beach day, we'll wrap up Thursday night. We went to a place called Camp David, which is very high up on a mountain.
Never heard of it.
Very high, very high up on a mountain. It was one of the best meal experiences I've ever had in my life. Very, very high end, amazing. And by that time, it was day 3 of the experience, and I really felt like truly we were a part of the family. You know, I was sitting across from Manuel. I was giving him some cigars. You know, he was giving me some cigars. I sat next to Don Guillermo, who owns the company, who's, you know, his family started the company in the 1800s. I mean, it was truly a really amazing experience being with these people and learning from them and becoming friends with them. You know, I still am messaging them on WhatsApp, and you know, it's really the start, I think, of a nice friendship. And like I said, I can't wait for you guys to experience it.
Awesome.
So the next morning, we were going to the beach day to Puerto Plata. We got in a van and went out there, which was about an hour and a half trip, I think. And the first thing we did is we stopped at the Museo del Ambar, which is a gift shop where they have amber. I guess there's a lot of amber in the Dominican Republic, and you know, the Jurassic Park amber, they have that there. And I think Jurassic Park in 1994 used amber from that museum. So we
Cool.
stopped there. It was a cool experience. And then we went to the beach and we had a rum and cigar afternoon. And-
what did you smoke?
I smoked a ton of stuff.
All right.
I smoked some Cuban stuff, smoked some Honduran stuff, smoked a bunch of La Aurora stuff. I think we had 6 cigars that day,
Look at
sitting
you.
with Manuel, and we were just giving each other rum, and everybody was drinking. It was awesome.
That's
It was a
great.
great experience.
What rum were you guys drinking?
We were drinking the Leon Jimenez,
Nice.
the
Did you have-
110.
Did you
Did
try
you
any other Leon Jimenez rums or just
It
that
was
one?
just the 110.
Okay.
That was what we were doing that day.
All right,
yeah.
a more important question. Did you have your shirt off?
I did not. I had a tank top on. I had the tank top on you guys love.
Please don't tell me the tie dye.
The
The
tie-dye
wife
tank
beater?
top.
Oh, my
yes.
Lord. We
And
need
my-
to educate this young man.
All right, so we're never invited back.
Oh no, we had a great time.
Only thing worse than lily white skin is a tie-dye.
Tie-dye wife beater.
The only worst thing is a tie-dye in combination with
And I had my cigar swimsuit on
Nothing says Pennsylvania more
from
than
Tommy Bahama.
lily white skin.
You
and my
did.
flip-flops. I was rolling, man. It was great.
Cigar swimsuit.
Oh,
Oh, my
yeah.
goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Can you
Smokes.
describe the swimsuit a little?
It has cigars on it. It
Sounds
has
busy.
pictures of cute. It's very busy. It's very busy.
Very
But-
touristy.
We had a great time. We had a great meal there. They had these cabanas on the beach. They were like literally like king size beds covered on the beach where you could lay out right there. The water was amazing.
I'm gonna
It was such a great experience.
I'm gonna propose that for the summer lineup, you have a lounge lizard swimsuit or swim trunks that look like the lounge lizard boxers.
Oh, okay.
That's
Yeah.
an
That's a
idea.
good idea. I like that.
it.
I like that. We have to do it, and then I'll wear those next time.
There you go.
All right, we're just not going to let Gizmo design it.
So yeah, that was the trip in a nutshell, boys. It was eye opening. It was immersive. It was, like I said, I really felt like we were invited into their family. It felt very genuine. It didn't feel put on. Like they were really happy to have us there. Obviously, we're media, right? I understand that there's that component of it, but it felt honest. And I really felt like we got a complete experience, and it far exceeded my expectations when I was going. Far exceeded my expectations. So
how did you feel safety wise? Obviously, I feel like there's a lot of chatter about Dominican Republic, other islands in the Caribbean about safety. I'm just curious.
So I would say that I guess because it was set up like this with people who live in the Dominican and who work in the Dominican, they were very conscious to make sure that everything was set. So the hotel we were at a beautiful brand new Residence Inn by Marriott, brand new hotel, great. All of the transportation was by one person in a Sprinter van.
Can I just say, when Gizmo gets to Cuba, he's describing this hotel. The thing he's more excited about than anything, he's like, I could do my own laundry at this hotel.
I did.
I was like, what?
They had brand new laundry machines. I was so excited that I could do my laundry and go to Cuba with fresh
Did they
laundry.
have Tide?
They did. I did buy
Interesting.
Tide.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I bought a Tide Pod.
Very
So
impressive.
What was the
Wow.
best cigar that you had from La Aurora?
The best cigar I had when I was there. I love the 120. We had reviewed that actually coincidentally when I was there. That episode came out. Totally unplanned, but it worked out great. My favorite cigar I smoked the entire time I was there was the La Aurora Family Reserve Fernando Leon in Corona Gorda, which was a cigar that Guillermo gave me at that dinner at Camp David, and it was amazing. I definitely want to do that on the
Is that a
podcast.
Wow.
puro Dominican cigar?
I'm not
Dominican-
sure what the blend is on it.
Is
But,
that the one which comes in those big tubes?
No, this comes in a white box.
Oh, okay.
Really nice presentation. But yeah, that was a really, really good cigar. I actually got a couple of those to smoke at home. So
We should maybe do that on the pod.
yeah, that's definitely one I want to do in the
Cool.
future for sure.
Cool.
For sure. So I just want to shout out a few people that were amazing on this trip. The CEO, Don Guillermo Leon, of course, was just so gracious and hospitable and amazing to all of us the entire week. The sales and marketing director, Iterbides Zaldival, I can't pronounce it, forgive me. The master blender, Manuel Inoa, as I mentioned before, and then the team from the Americas, some folks we met at PCA, CEO Ed McKenna, John Gaglio, Amanda Davis, and Elvis Batista. And a special shout out to Elvis Batista because he put the whole thing together for us. And those guys are big fans of the podcast and what we're doing. So it was really, really nice to invite me to come and to support what we're doing here by inviting me and educating me, which of course then educates our audience. So it was a really, really great experience. So
How many other guys were there with you?
there was about 6 other people there from other media. So yeah, it was a great week. We had a great time, and I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Take us with you next time.
I will. Next time we all go. So boys, we're into the last third now on the Rocky Patel 60. What thoughts do you guys have? I'm enjoying it.
So early I was complaining at the beginning of the second third a little bit, but it has really, I'm down to an inch now. It's very, very good. It's finished nice and strong.
Yeah.
For me, yeah.
Yeah, but I took it down to the very end. I've been done for about 15 minutes. I think something that I tend to forget, and had I remembered, I don't smoke this size cigar often, but a punch would have definitely been the way to go, or a V cut over a straight cut. Because with a straight cut, when you're this wide and you get to the very end, the cigar just kind of starts to fall apart. So it's hard to take it down as far as it deserves to go. Um, so I probably put my cigar down a little bit earlier than I wanted to, but I was enjoying it nonetheless. But yeah, if it were a tighter cut or a tapered cut of some kind, it would have had a little bit more structural integrity to survive.
Yeah, when the cigar is like this loosely packed,
Yeah,
you end up kind of smoking it too fast.
yeah, yeah.
Right. And that kind
yeah.
of it kind of alters the taste a little bit, but overall it's a very pleasant.
I did enjoy
experience. I
that
mean,
slight pickup in spice
yeah.
at the end. Yeah,
The last third is actually very, very good.
Yeah, no
yeah.
complaints. It was actually very savory for me and a little earthy.
Yeah.
In a very pleasant way.
So, boys, let's go now to some listener email. It's time to do our Lizard of the Week. This week's winner is Lizard Lake. And he writes, Giz, the recent story about the Lizards' trip to see the Buena Vista Social Orchestra was great. Y'all are a diverse group, but all come together over shared interests in the music, much like you do over cigars, spirits, travel, and others. I've heard the group cover food pairings, spirits obviously, favorite locations to smoke, etc. I think hearing what the Lizards like to listen to or the artists and genres that they're into at the moment would be a fun piece. I don't have access to a lounge, so I spend most of my time smoking cigars on the back deck, and music pairing plays a big part in my experience. Any recommendations on outdoor speakers or setups are always great too. As always, thanks to you and the Lizards for delivering excellent content. With 3 small kids at home, my cigar time is very limited, and listening to the pod, quote, scratches the itch when I go too long without a cigar. It's the next best thing to the real deal, and your consistent output of quality reviews and camaraderie is a real treat. Thanks, Lizard Lake. Wow. Isn't that awesome?
Great
Oh,
email.
that's
That
a great.
is.
It's a great email. And when it comes to music, just for my personal taste, when I'm by myself and I smoke a cigar, or when I'm working and I want to focus on something, I listen to Coltrane. I listen to John Coltrane, and I don't know if I don't know if we've ever discussed Coltrane in this room or jazz, but like,
Oh, we have over PowerPoint slides.
oh yeah. I definitely use it.
We still have to have it happen.
Yeah,
You
we don't
were
know
right
who
there.
won
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Was there
yeah,
ever
yeah.
a competition?
No.
Yeah,
So-
Grinder and Pooba still need to do that. But yeah, so what Senator's referencing is Pooba likes to listen to Coltrane while he's devising his PowerPoint
do.
slides for work,
I do.
as well as cigars.
I do. You know why? Because well, there's some songs with lyrics, but most of it doesn't have lyrics, and it gives you the kind of, it sets a mood. Coltrane's a legend, and I just I like that. I like Miles Davis as well. So I like jazz. I think if you're sitting and you want to focus on something, but you don't want to be focusing on some kind of narrative, like some lyrical narrative, but you just want a mood set. For me, jazz works. My 2 cents.
So I'm with you on that. My go-to is a guy named Keith Jarrett, who's a
Mhm.
solo jazz improvisational pianist. Went out in front of live audiences starting in the 70s and created some really seminal records. Just him sitting down at a piano playing improvised music in front of a live audience. And his record, The Colne Concert from, I think it was 1975, is probably my favorite piece of music ever created. Like Desert Island, it's the only record I would be happy to listen to on a desert island. His music, his solo jazz stuff is very much, I would say, in line with what you get from Coltrane, I get from Jarrett. It's just brilliant stuff. I encourage any listener who's into listening to music when they smoke. Keith Jarrett's one of my favorites, and I know the Senator's dad is a Keith Jarrett appreciator as well. So
Is that right?
yeah,
Correct. He's
Absolutely.
a huge jazz fan.
Yeah.
Huge.
and if you want something that's a little bit more upbeat, of course, we listen to it a lot here at the lounge. But Steely Dan
Yeah.
and the stuff that they created, their discography is always good.
Social.
Yeah, exactly. Social smoking. It's
So
very good.
I piggyback on a lot of your soundtracks. So between Senator and Gizmo's Cuban soundtrack, That's kind of hard to beat with a cigar and a drink in your
There's
hand.
no Gizmo Cuban soundtrack.
Well, I'd like to give him some credit.
Well, we love listening to the Buena Vista Social.
Of course.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
just
Buena
that
Vista.
whole line of Cuban music that Senator's got on his phone, it's awesome.
Cuban jazz is the best.
Yeah,
period.
dude,
absolutely.
If you're smoking a cigar, you cannot beat it.
It's
It's
awesome.
like you,
Oh,
you
yeah,
feel
yeah.
whether you've been to Cuba or you
Yeah.
haven't, you feel transported there. And you know whether you've been there or not, the cigar culture is so strong there
Correct.
that
Correct.
nothing puts
nos-
me in that headspace.
It's
like-
nostalgic for us, right?
For sure.
Now, when I play Espionage and I go to the Dominican club down the road, there's always Dominican music playing. It's very subtle. It's jazz-like. That I also happen to very, very enjoyable.
Yeah, for me, I tend to have issues with relaxing. Having multiple restaurants and overseeing different properties. I always feel like there's something to do, and there's always something I could catch up on or something I could get ahead on. So very rarely am I just sitting down listening to music and smoking a cigar. I often find myself at my laptop or on a call or listening to a podcast that somehow is going to improve me, whether it be on this podcast or something personal in life or whatnot.
The Lounge Lizards intro music.
Yeah,
Don't forget.
especially the original. Uh, but yeah, no, I can't say I listen to music and smoke cigars often, but when I do listen to music, I enjoy jazz, but I prefer more percussion. So there's a percussionist named Giovanni Hidalgo. This guy's legendary, super fast hands. He's great on congas, great on every percussion instrument, but he focuses primarily on the conga. I love Eddie Palmieri if we're going to talk about piano. He's a legend. Some classic salsa, Buena Vista Social Club's always great. But then other than that, it's usually like The Roots or Tribe Called Quest or some kind of like lo-fi hip hop, something that's just gonna kind of calm me. But I don't do that with cigars. I do that if I can't smoke a cigar, or I need to focus a little bit more and I'm working and I may have that playing. But when I'm smoking cigars, I'm usually listening to a podcast or an audiobook or something like that.
And you know what I also would recommend too, when when you talk about music, and I don't know what people's taste is in the room because we don't talk about it that much, but um, like Sinatra's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sinatra's
Tony Bennett, Sinatra.
You
yeah.
know, sometimes when you have a celebratory cigar, and you're feeling in that positive way, not so introspective. I find Sinatra to be great, especially the live stuff.
I had to give Sinatra a break after the Yankees lost to the Dodgers in the World Series. So it's kind of pissed off that they played New York while the Dodgers were celebrating on our field. But
Maybe it's a New York thing, but
Sinatra's great.
but I like
He's fun.
I like Sinatra too when I'm in a celebratory mood.
Did Garrett Cole get to first base yet?
So, boys, another question that Lizard Lake asked about outdoor speakers for listening when you smoke outside. What are some of the recommendations in the room here? I think that I could probably call them out. I know number one is definitely going to be the Sonos, correct?
The Sonos Move, hands down. There's like a smaller version of it.
The
Don't
Roam.
even bother. The
Yeah.
Roam is garbage. The Sonos Move produces better sound than any outdoor portable speaker that you can find.
I will say the speaker that we take to Cuba with us, the small Bluetooth, it's the Bose SoundLink.
Sound Flex.
Sound
yeah.
Flex.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's $149 or something. It's
Pretty
good.
good.
It's not great.
Yeah, it's good because it's really compact. It's easy to travel with. So for like its size, it's probably one of the best options, but the sound is nothing to write home about.
It does project well in an open area.
Yeah.
yeah,
The
It
JBL
just
isn't
lacks
bad.
the depth of like a Sonos, but the Sonos Move is like, it's heavy, it's big, it's hard to travel
Yeah.
with.
It's not that portable.
I have kids. My wife uses my speaker occasionally. The speaker travels with me sometimes. So I just have like a JBL waterproof. It's a substantial speaker. Not super expensive, not as expensive as a Sonos, but it gets the job done. And if it breaks or someone loses it or, whatever happens, it's
I think headphones are also great if you're listening solo and you don't
Yeah.
want,
yeah.
to
Yeah.
bother anyone. You just,
Especially noise canceling.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, Sonos just came out with noise canceling headphones.
Yeah.
Competing with the Apple
Yeah, they look very similar.
AirPods Max. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say about the Sonos is I've found is that the Sonos works really good when you're at home and you're near your Wi-Fi network. But when you need to move to Bluetooth, the Sonos can be a little bit
It's a
more
pain in the
challenging.
ass,
So
yeah.
that's why I know when we travel to Cuba, I actually brought a Sonos Roam and a Bose Soundflex. And the Soundflex is 1,000 times easier to navigate the Bluetooth when you're away from home. So if you're going to be traveling out of the house with it, that would probably be the recommendation, or maybe that JBL you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah,
know,
the
for
second
Bluetooth.
maybe the JBL was
Yeah.
probably
We use Sonos a lot in the businesses, and there are times where they get impaired and they're just a pain in the ass to get back, up and running, and they're somewhat temperamental. And I get really upset because I know how much more expensive they are than some of the other options out there. And when they're working, they're fantastic.
You mean networking them, like getting them to
Yeah,
talk to
or
each other?
even in Playa's case, we only have one Sonos speaker, but there was a point there where it just lost connection often, and
They put out a new app earlier this year, and they totally screwed up their entire
oh my
ecosystem.
goodness,
It's like
yeah.
an internet disaster. If you Google Sonos new app, you'll read about it. It was really bad, but it seems like it's fixed now.
Yeah, good.
Pagoda fixed it.
Poor Pagoda, who's not what would you say, technically proficient.
Hey, but I do think the Sonos Move. I know Senator had to come and fix it up for me in the house, and the Roam, I just couldn't even get it working, so I gave it to Giz.
And I brought it to Cuba and fixed it, but it is a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
though.
so no, I do have the Bose for traveling and Sonos Move for my deck, and it works really well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in a fixed environment, great. But like I said, with my kids and my wife, and if we travel to Greece or whatever, we bring a speaker just in case. Just there's nothing better than just a quick Bluetooth connection. You're up and running, and that's it.
Yeah, I feel like JBL is very easy to connect.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, sorry, there is one more. It's not cheap. This is more Sonos price level, but Bang & Olufsen makes this. It's like it's this big rectangular box. It's not the most portable. Same with the Sonos Move, but the sound this thing puts out. When you said Greece, that's what made me think of it. When I was in Crete, in my room in the hotel, they had this Bang & Olufsen portable speaker, and we put it out by our pool. Ridiculous sound for this little box.
Really
It's really good.
good bass response. I'm assuming.
Like
being in the Cube.
honestly, as good, if not better, than the Sonos Move.
No. Wow.
That's a good one. Another one put on the list.
I've got a Marshall that I got as a gift, and it's like this big. It's like a rectangle. It puts out so much sound. It's fantastic. I mean, it's fantastic. I could put it up on my pool area, but it's not that portable. I mean, it's a box like this.
Almost looks like a mini
Like
guitar
this.
amp or
Yeah, it's like a
something.
guitar
Yeah, it's
amp
like
almost.
a tiny little guitar amp, but it's a Bluetooth speaker. Very good.
Awesome. So thanks again to Lizard Lake for sending us this email. He's going to win a little gift package from us, and anyone out there who listens can just send us an email, send us a voice memo, a YouTube comment, Instagram comment, whatever you choose. You can win Lizard of the Week. We're going to choose a lizard every week to win that. We've been doing that for some time now, and we love to hear from our listeners. So please keep it up. Continue writing us and tell us what you think. All right, boys. So one more segment before we move into our ratings. I want to go back to a segment we introduced about a month or two ago, I guess, A Day in Lizard Life. And we really enjoyed it the first time around. And there were two guys that I want to point to because we've had some really amazing evenings at Senator's new back. I don't even want to call it a deck or patio. I mean, it's
Extension of
extension.
the estate.
It's the estate extension
Correct.
at Senator's house, which isn't even complete. And it could be. If he told me it was done, I would believe him. So this segment was introduced by a listener a couple months ago, A Day in Lizard Life, going through just one of the lizard's rotation of cigars, top to bottom, what they smoked in a sit. And I would love to have Bam and Puba tell us, because you guys had some pretty serious cigars sitting on Senator's estate over
Yeah,
there.
that ended at like 4 a.m.
I know. That was a late night.
Age before beauty.
So Puba, you're up.
Oh,
Even though I'm
Okay.
older.
I don't know if you're older. I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. What did I have? I had a D4.
Okay,
which I
Partagas
brought.
D4 from Cuba.
I had a Partagas D4. I brought a Maduro.
Davidoff Maduro. And Robusto.
Then-
fill in the gaps here.
Then I smoked an Anahados 11.
H. Upman, Anahados from Cuba.
Yes, an H Upman.
These come out
Anahados.
when you visit my place.
Yes. Well, I'm generous too when you guys come. Yes,
Of course. No one's
Always.
saying you're not.
Always.
And then I had another Davidoff.
You had two Davidoff Maduros.
Two Davidoff
Yowza.
Maduros.
That's right.
Because he brought another one.
I had brought out a bunch of sticks for guys, and then Puma was like, "Oh, I'll take another one of those."
And then I can't remember what the fourth one I had. What did I have the fourth one? I can't remember. It
Very
was
helpful
fucked
for the
up.
segment.
I mean, well,
That
it
I
was-
prompted 2 hours ago.
By the way, it was a long night, guys. I
It
mean,
was. But in fairness, I took a photograph of my list. I couldn't remember.
you photographed it.
I sent you guys the list because I was so proud of it. I took a photo.
So Bam Bam, run us through yours.
So I started off with a custom bench roll out of La Corona, rolled by one of our dear friends in Cuba.
Yes.
You and I got these. Are very, very. Was it 2.5 years now?
Yeah. 2 years ago.
So these cigars were awful the first year. I didn't even look at them. I have them in a separate desktop, and I don't even go near it. They're all smoking incredibly delicious right now. They're just unbelievable. So I had that as a starter. Then the short to punch.
Punch short to punch from Cuba.
Yep, punch short to punch. Then I had the Padron Soberano, which honestly,
I love Padrones and Tubos.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
I
in a tubo.
had a Patron. I had an Exclusivo.
Exclusivo, that's right.
Thank you for bringing it back.
You got it. That Soberano is very subtle.
It's great.
Underrated, I think, in this group.
It was confusing by the end.
Garçon, we need some espresso right over here.
Well, no, I mean, guys, we were there till 4 a.m. I mean,
That's true too. Epic night, by the way. Epic.
Wow.
Then I had the late hour Robusto by Davidoff. That was delicious. Haven't had one of those in a long time.
We have that coming up before the end of the year, I think.
Yep. And then Senator gave me a D4, which was outstanding. Beautiful, delicious smoke. Then the Trinity Robusto.
Oh,
By
from FOH.
FOH.
It's
Can you
Fabrica
believe
5.
this? He had never had
I've
that
never had
cigar,
that.
so I
What?
was like,
I've never
"Bam,
had
you
that."
have to." So I gave him one of those too.
So
I
for the
can't stop
listener-
smoking that
For the
cigar.
listener, these people in this room, they keep me from these cigars. They
Yeah,
just don't
okay.
let me have
Yeah,
them.
uh-huh.
They don't.
Yeah.
Pagoda, back me up on this.
Listen, I didn't know, but knowing you probably have a box somewhere.
No, I
Bam, that's
Right.
like, Senator, I've never had one before. I had him one. He goes home. He's got 40 of them.
don't. No, I wish. That is
this is Bam being hyperbolic
hyperbolic.
as usual.
So that cigar, honestly, wow. Off the charts, shockingly good.
Mm.
That Trinity Robusto, excellent.
Good lineups, boys.
Yeah, very nice line.
And we had a great, it
Good
seems
host.
like the first of many.
Yeah.
The patio's, like I said in the text, the patio is great, but it's evil.
It is evil.
Yeah, it was a late night.
The
It was
Havana,
a late night.
Havana
Senator,
Club
how-
was flowing.
How long before you think you're going to get a complaint?
Oh no, my neighbors, they're on the payroll. I mean, are you kidding me? They love me. My neighbor, even next door, he like popped over the other day. He's like, "Wow, it's looking really good." He's like, I'm gonna be coming over, right? And I was like, yeah, I'll invite you. We'll have a fire. So they all want an invitation.
And we're not allowed.
You can hand him a Rocky Patel.
Yeah, bring him the 60.
It'll work.
Yeah. Well,
All right, boys. So that's a day in lizard life. We're going to continue to do that every once in a while, go through a day of cigar rotations of a lizard or two or three. And boys, it's time to move into the ratings now tonight. First on the Woodford Double Oaked Bourbon. Bam Bam, you're up.
So I'm surprised at how delicious this was. I'm not a bourbon drinker. I'm just not. But this was rich. Senator, you mentioned it. There's some similarities to a cognac here, which I really loved. The moment I put a chip of ice in it, though, I have to say I didn't like it as much.
No.
I really enjoyed the richness, the purity of it without ice. It was good with ice, but without, outstanding. $50 or so a bottle. Again, I'm not a bourbon guy, but I'm gonna give this an 8. Yeah, delicious for me.
music
8.
to my ears.
Chef Ricky.
Yeah, I'm at an 8. I never put ice in it. I did enjoy it very much. I enjoyed the oakiness, the cherry notes. which oftentimes I think almonds sometimes can, especially when comparing the flavors in extract form, they could be confused with cherry. They're very complementary of one another. So yeah, I think the almond cherry notes there, the oaky notes, the vanilla. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It didn't drink anywhere near as hot as one would think. With the proof that it had. Yeah, and I think as a neat pour this time of year, it's a great bourbon to drink. Price point's really accessible. It's an 8 for me.
Okay, Pagoda.
9 for me, definitely. I'm not a bourbon drinker, as most people know, and I generally will get Woodford Reserve, just a typical, the one you get for around $30. But I tend to make cocktails out of it, either Manhattans or old fashions, but this is one I thought you could easily sip it. And a testament to that would be that I did not even put a chip of ice right till the end.
Mm-hmm.
And with a chip of ice, I think for me, what it does is it just cools down the drink a little bit. And if you're drinking reasonably quick, it doesn't dilute it enough. So it's pretty good. So I really enjoyed it. I like the cherry flavors and a bit of the dark chocolate I got in the back towards the end. And I think it somewhat complemented the cigar in the second half for sure. For me, it's a 9. And I think I'll go and buy it and just have it for people who want to come and sip a bourbon. It's fantastic.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would totally buy this over the regular Woodford.
Yeah,
I
definitely. Yeah.
love
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
this. And
And I've been looking for bourbons because we talk about the Weller and they're about $100, and
Mhm.
this is essentially half the price.
Yeah.
And
Good point.
for sometimes if you do want to try a bourbon, or if somebody wants to come in, it's for me typical. Bourbons are typically like they're slightly higher proof, so I tend to shy away from them anyway. But this was very smooth in delivery, so it didn't even feel like it was like I think
Yeah.
about what 90 proof I think
Yeah.
in this, and yeah, meaning I really enjoyed it. It's 9 for me.
All right, Senator.
I'm in the exact same camp as Pagoda. It's a strong 9. For a bourbon to pair with cigars, I think this is definitely one of the best in terms of its versatility. I mean, as soon as I took a sip, I thought of countless. Someone called out, imagine this with a Padron Exclusivo.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect.
That was
There's
me.
so many New World cigars.
Well done.
You're a genius.
You're a genius.
Check mark. Can somebody get a gold star out and give that to Poopa,
Ding, ding,
please?
ding, 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 ding.
There's so many New World cigars that I feel like this bourbon would pair great with. I think, like Pagoda was saying, I mean, you would not immediately realize this is a 90 proof bourbon. It's smooth yet so flavorful. I mean, there's not one point at which you're saying like this lacks flavor or I need more. Neat. I think it's perfect. A chip of ice didn't bother me. I actually think like if it were a warmer day and I just wanted something, a little cooler, both in terms of like strength and body or also just temperature, I think ice works great with it. I think at its price point, it's perfect to sip, but also like this in a cocktail would be killer. I mean,
Mhm.
it's so
Killer.
damn flavorful.
Mhm.
I think it's the perfect like next step for the regular Woodford that we all know, their bourbons. So it's a definite recommend. I would serve this to someone at my house. I would drink it again. And I'm really glad we tried it.
And I'll tell you, the viscosity was also just perfect.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Mhm.
You know,
It wasn't
very thin,
syrupy,
yeah.
but it wasn't thin.
Yeah,
That's
it was
right.
just there was something very nice about this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it had like a medium viscosity about it.
Yeah.
It just had a little bit of that, which was great.
Yeah.
And it had that mouth feel. I enjoyed it. It has that Woodford DNA, but it just brings more complexity in terms of I got vanilla, I got orange, I got cinnamon. It's just elevated a little bit more wood, but not too much, and just better than the standard Woodford Reserve. I mean, it's just elevated. I mean, this in an old fashioned,
Yeah.
would be would
Spec-
just
amazing.
elevate
it
it.
would be spectacular
Yeah. I
in
think
an old fashioned.
yeah, for me, it probably would have got a 9 if it was just a little bit more buttery. It just was just a little bit short, and I think that's why it would go great in an old fashioned because the addition of that sugar cube in an old fashioned it would just kind of round everything out and make it a little bit more rich.
Yeah. I mean, I think my hypothesis is for the bourbon like aficionado, this probably doesn't rank, as high as, I don't know, like some of these Wellers and
Weller, E.H. Taylor. I mean, so many of these.
Yeah. Like they're really looking for the heart of the heart of the barrel and the higher proof kind of experience with bourbon. I mean, but for me as kind of a casual bourbon drinker, it hits every note. It hit every note for me. And going into Thanksgiving and going into Christmas, really nice.
Yeah, very
And-
appropriate.
and
So you're saying it's a 10?
No, I'm saying it's a 9.
Ah, okay.
Drum
I'm
roll.
saying
That's
it's
what we
not-
were waiting for. The rating.
No,
Sorry.
that was a great read. That was
sorry. No, I mean it's a 9 for me. I'm
That's
not
a
a
great
bourbon
score.
aficionado,
Yeah, no, that's a great score.
but for me right now it's a 9.
So I'm also at a 9. I almost echo everything that Senator said and Pagoda said. I think the one thing that neither of them noted was that cherry thing that happened for me that I think worked really well with the cigar.
Yeah.
There was a fruitiness about this bourbon that was unique to it.
So my orange note didn't hit with you?
No.
Okay.
For me, with more.
There was no
Take that
citrus
gold
note?
star back. Somebody get that gold
Someone
star
else
back.
got an
Yo,
orange note.
No, but even
Gotcha.
for me, it was more cherry
Gotcha.
forward. I
So you're
thought.
discounted.
I agree.
Very, yeah.
You've clearly discounted all of my commentary.
No, not at all.
I would never do that.
I don't think anyone got Apple though, right? They highlighted
Yeah, they
Apple
highlighted
in
Apple. I
there.
didn't get
I
that.
didn't get any Apple.
Yeah, I didn't get
No,
that.
but I really thought that this was a perfect cigar bourbon. I almost wish that the title of it was Woodford Reserve Cigar Bourbon. I think for most New World cigars, I think this would perform very well, especially higher strength Nicaraguan cigars. This is the perfect pairing for that. And at $56, I think it's a really value buy in the bourbon space.
Time out. One question. Who was the listener that sent this bottle?
Lizard Kyle.
A+.
Yeah,
A+.
good
Lizard
recommend.
Kyle.
And I say that not because, I think there are many listeners that can send tons of fantastic bourbons, but what we're all saying is that this pairs really well with cigars. And that's what we
Absolutely.
have a hard time sometimes finding because a really high proof bourbon may overpower what we're smoking. And this didn't at all.
Yeah, and he has no idea what cigar we're going to smoke with it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's- yeah.
Like with an exclusivo, this thing's hit it. This is a home run.
Yeah,
This is going to sound very weird. I think a number of us who are not bourbon drinkers and that we drink it often, we drink it, but just not too much. There are a number of bourbons that many of us don't feel great the next day when we consume in quantity. For whatever reason, Woodford is like this one of the few bourbons that I never feel that bad the next day. Like
that's a good point.
when I make the paper plane cocktail I've talked about, which we will do on an episode, I love using Woodford in that. And I've never, I don't feel bad drinking it. And even just this, like I've drank a decent amount of it and I just feel good.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with sugar content.
Maybe I
Yeah.
have a similar experience with Widow Jane 10. That's a very clean, easy drinking, delicious bourbon. I don't have it often, but if I have copious amounts of it, I don't feel that bad the next day.
Right.
Yeah. But some bourbons, I'm not getting up early that next day.
So, boys, the formal liquor rating tonight on the Woodford Reserve Double Oaked is an 8.7.
What are
Great
other-
score.
Yeah.
Are we checking other bourbons to compare to that?
Well, we're going
I'm
to compare
very curious.
We're going to compare that to the Woodford Reserve bourbon
Mm.
that we did on episode 25, which was a long time ago, which scored an 8.4.
Okay.
So this did edge out
Makes sense.
the
Perfect,
standard issue Woodford Reserve. And
Yeah.
again, at that $56 price point,
Makes sense.
I think it's great. And we have to shout out again very clearly Lizard Kyle.
Thank you.
An
Thank
awesome
you.
listener out
Yes.
there
Yeah.
who sent us this.
Thank
We're
you.
actually going to talk about Lizard Kyle in a couple weeks. He sent us something else,
Oh, boy.
which I think all of us are really looking forward to. So shout out to Lizard Kyle. Thank you for the support and thank you for sending us this awesome bourbon tonight. It
Awesome.
performed very well. And again, a few of us have said it. It was a perfect pairing, I think, for cigars. All right, boys, it's time now to move into the formal Lizard rating tonight on the Rocky Patel 60. And I got to say, I have been waiting for this rating segment since I ordered these cigars a few months ago. And I have never been so excited to say Rooster, you're up.
Hey, just before Rooster goes, I want to say whatever Rooster says, just add a point or two, please. Anyway, there we go.
I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised.
I think so too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I really did not know what to expect from this cigar. So I kept an open mind. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna, there's no judgment. Just gonna smoke the cigar and
You?
and see what it
No.
is. I mean, it's a big cigar. It's a 60 ring gauge, but it didn't really feel that big. I think it was a little bit loosely packed, so it burned a little fast.
Yeah.
But the flavor, I mean, for a Nicaraguan cigar, it was the mildest Nicaraguan cigar that I think I've ever had. The cigar, I mean, it felt light, but the draw was so wide open that somebody did mention maybe we should have done like a punch or a V cut on it. Maybe that would have been better. But overall, the experience was very and surprisingly very pleasant. Uh, good cigar. I think it's a great for somebody who's starting out. For a newbie, it's a good recommend for that person. Um, it was overall a very pleasant cigar, and actually, it did pick up in strength towards the end.
Yeah.
And actually enjoyed the last third the most
Agreed.
out of
Totally
out
agree.
of the
Yeah,
the
I think
whole.
we're with you there.
It's a big
So
deal.
I think it was a really good cigar. I mean, I'm very surprised. I don't have much experience with the Rocky Patel cigars, to be honest, and
So it's a 6.
Thank you for being honest.
No.
I might have had maybe 2 or 3, maybe. But so I'm gonna give it a generous 8.
All right.
Wow.
Puba.
I thought the first 2/3 of the cigar were slightly boring, but not unpleasant. It was never unpleasant. There was no unpleasant moment in the entire smoke. To Rooster's point, it did pick up in the last third, which was really, I think, gives it a lot of merit. So I'm going to go with an 8. Yeah, I'm going to go with an 8. It was for the given the price point at $16. I think it's okay. I didn't get a pepper blast. I didn't get like tar blasts, weird stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like unpleasantness. I smoked it down to the end, and it was a big cigar. What is it? A Gorda, right? I mean, it's a big investment in time. Would I go buy it? Probably not. If it was given to me, would I smoke it and happily smoke it? Sure. So for me, it's an 8. I think it's got some merit. It didn't taste, to your point, it didn't taste highly Nicaraguan to me. It was kind of a medium bodied affair.
I mean, you usually do not get a fruit note out of a Nicaraguan
That's correct.
blend, right? And this was kind of unusual. in
Yeah, I
the
mean, look at
beginning.
the Pledge of Allegiance, E.P. Carrillo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so like if
but
it
it's
was
rare.
if I smoked it blind, I would have been confused. I'm not gonna lie. If I smoked it blind with no band on it, I'm not sure if I could have distinguished the difference between whether it was a Nicaraguan or a Dominican cigar. Honestly, like it was that kind of medium bodied. So I think there's a little bit of merit in that, and whatever he was trying to achieve, it's approachable. The price point isn't ridiculous. So for me, it's an 8.
All right, Senator.
So I think I agree with most of the commentary, but I'm at a 7. I think the delivery of flavor was excellent in the sense that it was smooth all the way through. There was not a single rough edge. It was versatile, approachable, deserves a world of credit for that. The smoke output was also excellent. I mean, the room filled with smoke. Brilliant decision to make this box pressed at 60 ring gauge. It made it feel like a 55 ring gauge even. My frustrations are, one, normally it shouldn't matter that there's 3 bands on this, but the reason it does is I had a small tear from the first giant band, which is the foot band, which was meaningless. The second band actually produced a pretty sizable tear
Yes, it
in the
did.
wrapper.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got to that as I was smoking, it then caused the cigar wrapper to start to crack and then really made like the last third, it was falling apart a little bit, which messed up the experience. And so I just, what was surprising is when you take those bands off, it's actually got a beautiful wrapper. It's a nicely constructed cigar.
Oh, yeah.
There's no reason to hide the cigar behind these wrappers. So I would hope if Rocky learns anything from this, is just please take off 2 of these 3 bands. It does not need it. And my experience would have been better without it because I wouldn't have been fighting to keep the wrapper intact in the last third of the cigar, which I was, and that really detracted from my experience.
It's fair.
In terms of the flavor, I like the notes all the way through. I think the last third picked up nicely in strength. I think the last third is where if I was doing this blind, I would have absolutely known it's a Nicaraguan cigar. I think like that's when it
Fair.
revealed itself to be Nicaraguan tobacco. The first 2/3, hard to tell. But given that it's not a particularly complex cigar, I think in the last third, the strength, it was more like heat and strength and some of the notes that I was getting in the first 2/3, but they didn't feel as defined as they were in the first 2. So I didn't love the last third. I like that it picked up in strength, but I didn't love the flavor I was getting. All that being said, great cigar for someone who wants to transition from, a milder cigar to something with some more flavor that's Nicaraguan or Dominican like. Versatile enough that an experienced smoker like all of us, didn't have a bad experience with it. So for all those reasons, I'm at a soft recommend at a 7. For me, an 8 is a firmer recommend. I'm not sure that I'm there, but this gives me hope for Rocky. I have to, give credit where credit's due. This was overall an enjoyable experience and has definitely challenged, I think, all of our, preconceived notions as far as what we would get or experience with a Rocky cigar.
And being that the cigar is in a cellophane, you don't need the extra 2 bands.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
already
cellophane
protected.
I think you show off the beautiful
3
cigar.
bands. It's
Exactly
3
right.
bands.
Because
Yeah.
the wrapper is so beautiful that you don't,
It's true.
you're kind of hiding the wrapper.
Correct.
Agreed.
So I'm also at a 7. And with that being said, I'm very pleasantly surprised by this cigar. I did toy with an 8 as I was coming out of that first third. I know I was talking more than the rest of you guys today, talking about the Dominican Republic trip. I was smoking a little slower. So I didn't sense the negative transitions in the ways that some of you guys have described so far. Like I think just smoking it slower kind of slowed down the heat, slowed down the intensity, and it didn't pick up in that last third for me in the same way I think it did for you. I think it was fairly pleasant throughout. Why did I knock it? I think that it smoked fast for me.
Yeah.
I was expecting this to be a 2 hour, 2 hour 15, 2 hour 30, cigar, and it kind of landed in the hour 40 range, and I was talking a lot.
Right. But
You
I
know?
thought that was a merit in it. I don't want that. I didn't want that much of it.
I just felt it smoked faster than it should have for its size. Like I feel like the Robusto should smoke for an hour 30 or hour 40. So if the Gordo smokes that long, I would imagine that the Robusto you're going to blow through in about an
I'm
hour.
kind of thankful that it did smoke as fast as it did.
Sure,
That's
and
what
that's
I'm
what Puba's
saying.
saying.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what
a
I'm
little
saying.
bit, just a little.
Yeah,
That's
like
what
you're
Puba's saying.
both right in the sense that, like, in an absolute sense, obviously Gizmo's right that
Of
a
course.
Gordo should smoke
It
longer.
Yeah.
should.
But Puba's point, I also agree with, and what Bam is saying, that like for this particular cigar and the fairly linear experience that you're getting from it, like if this smoked as long as it should, we probably would have gotten annoyed with it at some point. Where
Oh
like
yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
smoked
yeah,
at kind of the right
100%.
pace where you left satisfied and
Correct.
not frustrated.
100%. Like it was giving off enough smoke where you're just like, okay, there's combustion here.
Tremendous combustion.
Fine. I'll deal with it. But if I had to deal with it like much longer, it would have annoyed me.
Yeah.
More.
So I think for what the cigar is and what it was trying to be, I think a 7 is a very fair score.
Mm.
I think if I smoked the Robusto, I would assume it'd probably trend a little higher than that, maybe a little more concentrated, not so much of a wind tunnel. We talked about that punch versus V-cut versus straight cut thing. I think having a smaller face on the head of the cigar that you're drawing from would have helped this entire conversation.
Yeah.
Obviously, we didn't know that. And of course, the 60 ring gauge cigar, it's just too damn big.
Mhm. But it
you know?
smoked quick enough for it not to be a factor.
It did, but I just didn't like the mouthfeel of it. The box press did help, but
You don't like the
it's
jawbreaker.
it's a little too big. So for me, it's a 7. I got to give credit to Rocky. This was
says
better.
the guy, I have to say it, who that night at my place on my patio,
What did he have?
his first cigar
Oh.
was a Behike 56 ring gauge.
Yeah. It's like the size of my forearm.
Yeah, but that was a cigar I pulled out, and I said this there that was a cigar I pulled out for that event. A very rare type of experience for me. I'm not sitting down in a lounge pulling that out. Same with this. But if anybody asked me what I thought of this cigar, or I think of Rocky Patel now, this has changed my view a little bit. I think that it does make me want to try some more stuff and hopefully find something that I love. I like this cigar. I want to find something that Rocky makes that I love, and I just haven't found that yet. Pagoda.
Yeah, so I'm at an 8, and it was interesting because I went through 7 and 8. For me, I think I enjoyed the first third. The second third for me, I really did not enjoy. I thought it became very dry for me with a very short finish. And but then suddenly, it's really weird, but I did get like burnt coffee blast for a bit there. I was getting a bit of the dark chocolate towards the end, in certain parts of the smoke. But I think the last third, it became a little spicy. It wasn't overwhelming at all. It was just the right amount of spice. It got a little stronger. It started getting into my wheelhouse. So I think that really, nudged it up from a 7 to an 8. For me, it was an 8. By the way, great construction, great smoke output for somebody wanting to try it. You're spending $15-16 for a cigar. Not a bad way to spend an evening, really.
So I have to ask Pagoda, would you rather smoke this or the ALR?
Correct. Great question.
I haven't smoked the ALR for a very, very, very long time.
I
But,
thought you had it
I'm-
last week.
You smoked enough of them to remember some of it. I mean,
So
know.
I can tell you, like, I used to really enjoy the ALR, and it's tough because my palate has evolved over the years, but I think I do want to give ALR another shot again just to see, because I think I've come back to more of like a medium to strong kind of palate, because in between I'd gone way far right to very strong cigars.
Rooster's very disappointed.
what can we say? He's a big Rocky guy. He can't choose
I like-
between them.
No, yeah, meaning it's not. By the way, we don't go and buy boxes of Rocky. To be very honest,
Don't say we.
it-
This
it-
is a you.
Does anyone else? Because I don't. I don't. But you know what it is that there are some Rocky Patels I've tried. I think the 20th, the 15th, the decade. There's a couple I've tried, but just 1 or 2
Yeah,
cigars.
but they're no good.
Yeah, no, but
They're no good.
no, but
I've had all of those. They're not good.
no, but you know what it is if you were to go to any lounge and you were to meet people who are trying different cigars, and even me, when I started off, you're trying every type of cigar there is, and there was like there's no hesitation in me saying that I've tried a lot of Rocky Patels as well, but that was so much earlier on in my cigar smoking profile that recently, I think the last time I really had ALR was maybe in the pod, and then before that, it's about 3 years ago. So it's not that I really.
Yeah, we banned that after you joined the pod.
No, I also think that in the cigar journey, I was introduced to a lot more better cigars, and fortunately, I've been able to try so many other cigars that I've been able to really see what I really enjoy comparatively. And when you begin to realize there's so many really good cigars out there, and then you enjoy them better, your flavor profile keeps evolving, because I've seen from mild, medium, grow. I used to not like Maduros. Then all these guys know I'm really into Maduros only, typically. Then I went very far right to the very strong cigars back in the middle. I think just it's a journey. And you don't know which part of the journey you're going to be, because your flavor profile keeps evolving. You get introduced to different cigars. Something, if you're having a pleasant evening and you're having an enjoyable evening, you may enjoy the cigar more. There's so many factors, I think, that contribute to enjoying a cigar. For me, this was a pleasant experience. And So it's an 8 for me.
All right, very diplomatic. You didn't answer my question, but very diplomatic.
I like how he did like a tap dance around it.
It sounds like a politician.
Right.
By the way, election day is tomorrow.
It's like Parliament. I mean, he's dancing around the subject. I mean, you can buy an Aston VSG for how much? $16?
Here we go.
Here we go.
What do you
Again
mean, here
with
we
this?
go?
We
I'm just saying,
about it.
it's
It's
a
like
much
$8 or
better
$10.
cigar.
I enjoy
Just
that
talking
too.
about this cigar. I mean, this cigar to me, I think it was better than the ALR.
Me too.
I think so
enjoyed it
too.
Way better.
No
than the
question.
ALR.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
The ALR sucks.
Hey, I used to enjoy it. I used to really enjoy it when I used to smoke it.
All right.
All right, Chef Ricky, you're up.
Am I wrong?
I've always been at a 7, and when Rooster said an 8, I said, "Shit, I'm in trouble." But I was happy to hear some other 7s around the room. Primarily, the reason being, look, it delivered everything it did in a very non-offensive way, but it just wasn't enough of what I wanted. I got some dried fruit. But it was really mild until that final third, and then the final third, I couldn't really take it as far as I wanted it, because of my cut or because of the ring gauge or because of the third wrapper on it, the third band. So yeah, it's a 7. I think it's interesting, and I'm happy to hear that we've given it a decent score, considering that it's a Rocky Patel. And I think what I do like about the cigar is oftentimes not often, but there are times where I find myself smoking with people, whether they're family members or acquaintance who aren't cigar smokers like we are. And you pull out your Cuban, or you pull out your Exclusivo, or you pull out your banger or your go-to cigar, and you kind of don't want to make them feel less than by giving them something that you don't really enjoy. And this cigar, it's very ornate. It's very it's a large ring gauge. So in giving this cigar to someone who's never had a cigar before or who's had very few, they'll feel special smoking it, and they don't feel left out, and you don't feel guilty for not smoking the same exact one.
You won't hate it.
Yeah. And it's going to deliver something, and it'll deliver it in a pleasant manner where it's not going to put them on their butt or just kind of turn them off, and it'll do just enough where it'll pique their interest and get them to say, okay, well, what's next after this? Is there something that's a little bit more flavorful? Slightly, it's not even about strength, but just a flavor that it delivered.
There was little strength.
Yeah,
it was not a nicotine bomb.
Very mild cigar, and it's not what I was expecting based on the color of the wrapper, the presentation. But with all that being said, I think it was a strong 7. Soft recommend, good to have for company, good introductory cigar for people. And yeah, I feel good with my 7.
All right, Bam Bam.
So, Chef, you echoed a lot of what I said earlier in the recording. I think it's a great cigar for someone that's just starting their journey, to coin a phrase from Pagoda in a Corner. It was smooth. It was fairly creamy. The combustion was excellent. Was it memorable? For me, no. For anyone in this room, probably not. But like Puba said earlier, I think the way he made this cigar is made for a certain sector of cigar smoker, and I think he hit it on the nail on the head. It's made for a certain group of people, and I think it works well. It's very well made. Am I ever going to have this again? No, I probably won't remember it tomorrow. But for that group of people that are just getting into this, I think it's a great cigar for them. So I think an 8 is a nice score. No unpleasantness at all. I think we said that as well. Very nice cigar.
All right, boys, that puts the formal lizard rating tonight on the Rocky Patel 60 at a 7.6.
Okay.
Which is a
That's
much
a good
better score than I was expecting for this cigar
It worked
tonight.
out, right?
What did CA give it?
It was number 2. I'm sure it was mid-90s.
Way too high.
Number 2 of the year.
Outrageous.
Must have been a 96, 97.
Well, they take a puff and they throw it down and they give it a rating.
So let's compare that to the ALR we talked about during the ratings. The second edition Robusto from Rocky Patel we did on episode 104.
Dum dum dum.
That cigar scored a 6.6. So this was a full 10 points higher than the ALR Robusto.
Wow.
Again, I'm very, very surprised at how this cigar performed tonight and how everyone enjoyed it.
Yeah.
The fact that Rooster gave it an 8
Correct.
is
Huge.
shocking.
Correct.
I mean, just shocking. How are you? How are you
I
feeling?
gave
By
it
the
an
way,
8.
now Rooster's already regretting it.
I
you
think
know.
he is.
Poopa gave it an 8 too.
He
Also
seems
shocked.
disappointed that he gave it an 8.
That's
almost.
true. I'm more shocked that Poopa gave it an 8.
Yeah.
You know what? I gave. In
I think
short,
it's-
I'll be very brief here, not verbose. I gave it an 8 because it was smokable. It wasn't so highly packed that like it smoked like what you would think. I mean, I got through it relatively quickly. It wasn't offensive. It didn't bother me. Was it that exciting? No, but if it was at $16,
And by the way, I think everyone smoked it
that's
to the
not-
nut.
We did.
Yeah,
Everybody
Everybody
smoked it to the
smoked it.
So
nut.
you know, so at $16, it's an 8. At $28 or
No,
$32,
Sure.
I'm giving it a 7.
I think a mid-7 score is just perfect.
It's just
Yeah,
perfect.
7.6 is
I agree.
perfect for
Yeah.
this cigar.
Overall,
Yeah.
worked out
Perfect.
great.
I'd still think at $16 it's a little expensive considering I'm smoking an Exclusivo now, right? And it's a little bit cheaper than that, and it's a
You know, there's
much better experience.
Technically, a
Well,
lot more tobacco, I
Yeah,
guess, in a
it's the
Gordo.
size.
No,
It's the
no.
size.
You know, it's a double
Yeah.
Robusto, effectively.
I would
By the
say
way-
take the
Or
2
double
bands
Toro.
off and cut it down by $1.
The other
15.
the other thing is, Ricky, like an exclusive is $21 if you go in the city and buy it, just
Wow.
at an
Yeah.
average. Even over here, 18 to 20. So it's
Yeah.
like based on retail pricing, 16.50 is saying, you know, if you get them discounted, it's probably much cheaper. And Rocky Patel has like these multiple discounts.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you can get
He's
it for
very
$10.
aggressive. All right, boys, a great night tonight. Let's review our scores one more time. The Woodford Reserve Double Oaked Bourbon scored an 8.7. The Rocky Patel 60 scored a 7.6. Overall, for me, a very surprising evening with this cigar. And the bourbon, too. I mean, it was excellent. Obviously reflected in 8.7. We have a bunch of people to thank. First, let's thank Lizard Kyle, who was very kind to send us the Woodford Reserve. That was awesome. We really appreciate when listeners do that. So thank you to Lizard Kyle. Congratulations and thank you to Lizard Lake, who won Lizard of the Week with that great question about music and outdoor speakers. I would personally, and on behalf of all of us, like to thank the La Aurora team for having me and allowing me to experience that and share that with everyone here. It was a great week down there in the Dominican Republic, and I can't wait to go back with all of you. It was awesome and A+, and I'm really, really grateful. Thanks, of course, to our sponsor, Fabrica 5. Great partner, great guys, and we love having them. And finally, thanks to Lizard Nation for 3 years this week
Incredible.
of the Lounge Lizards podcast and supporting us. And congratulations to all of us
Correct.
that we don't hate each other yet.
Correct.
Isn't this nice? So a great night tonight, boys. Great chat, and we'll see everybody next week.
Keep smoking.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for joining us. You can find our merch store and ratings archive at our brand new website, loungelizardspod.com. That's loungelizardspod.com. Don't forget to leave us a rating and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. If you have any comments, questions, if you want to reach out, say hello, tell us what you're smoking, email us, hello@loungelizardspod.com. You can also find us on Instagram @loungelizardspod. We really appreciate your time, and we'll see you next week.